Are you ready to take your love for Spurs to the next level? Because we've got some exciting news for you. We're amping up our membership program so you can get even more of your Spurs fix. Plus, we're giving you ample opportunities to show off your Tottenham knowledge and win some epic prizes along the way.
As a Platinum member, you'll get access to exclusive shows, Q&A sessions, as well as FIFA content. You'll also have weekly chances to win We Are Tottenham TV merch in our weekly giveaways exclusively for you, our members.
But wait, there's more! We're introducing members-only giveaways during our watch-alongs, so not only can you watch the game with us, but you can also interact and win some incredible gifts along the way, talk about a win-win situation.
And if you're a die-hard Tottenham Hotspur fan, we've got something special just for you. Our frequent Spurs quizzes will test your knowledge and reward the most passionate fan with some amazing prizes. And if that's not enough, you can even be part of our weekly fan shows and have your say on everything happening at Tottenham Hotspur. It's like being in the locker room with the team. Well, not quite that, but you get the idea.
All of this epic content and exclusive benefits can be yours for just £12.99 per month. That's less than the price of a burger and a pint at the Tottenham Stadium. So don't wait, join our We Are Tottenham community today and take your love for Spurs to the next level. Trust us, you won't regret it. Come on, you Spurs.
What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another panel show. We haven't done one of these in a while now. The silly season of the transfer window is popping off, and we've got a lot to talk about with the panel today. First up, introducing Sean Butler from Spurs Talk Show. How you doing, Sean?
I'm good, Ben. I'm very good, mate. Glad to be back with you lovely people, talking about the thing we all love the most. How's everyone else doing?
Yeah, we're good, man. I think not seeing Spurs play for a while, I think, has lessened maybe the stress nerves and brought smiles back to our faces. Iggy, welcome back to the panel. How are you, my brother?
I'm good. How are you guys? Probably the same as you, Ben, in the sense that no football for a while has probably done us a world of good. But it's all coming back, so let all the negativity begin. I'm joking.
Iggy, it must have been nice for you. I haven't spoken to you since, but it must have been nice for you to see Inter Milan get beat in that Champions League final.
Like you wouldn't believe. That's all I was going to say. I don't want to upset any Inter fans that could be watching, but not that I expressed any kind of joy with Man City winning it. You guys know, but you know, out of the two, you got to go. I had to go with Man City. Sorry, guys.
Fair enough. But look, let's get straight into it. The first question for the panel is, are Spurs being cheap or smart in this market so far? We've got in Vicario for 17 million, Maddison for 40 million. It looks as though we are going to favour Van de Ven over Tapsoba, over getting both of them for around 30 million euros or whatever it may be. We'll start off with you, Iggy, on this one. Do you think we're being smart or cheap?
When you put it like that, the answer that comes straight away in my mind is cheap. I'm not going to be. I'm not going to. You know what? It's for so long we not that I have any problem with Vicario. Don't get me wrong, but for so long we spoke about Raya, and I was so excited about it. Right then, Vicario's actually for 17, 18 million. Listen, it can absolutely turn out to be a master stroke, but he's proven in the Premier League, so it's going to be one of them ones. So that's why when you look at the defence, you want it to be more. You want to go for somebody that you can more establish, so someone's got some sort of level of Premier League experience. Because that, to me, last season with 60 plus goals conceded, was absolutely one area that I felt certainly that we still have to attack in the market and really sort that out. Because if we're going to be playing like what's been spoken about, on a front foot with Postecoglou's way of playing, we have to have an absolute, the percentages of getting it right has to be high at the back, because everything's going to be based from that. If we're going to be playing on the front foot, you can't go forward if you're looking behind you thinking what's happening there. So to answer your question, my feeling right now is that we have gone for the cheaper option so far. But in saying that, I hope further down the line that where we have gone cheaper now, what we have saved in those deals can bring one or two heavyweights. I'm hoping. That's all I can say on it.
Iggy, just before we move on, I wanted to get your opinion on Vicario, because you're a fan of Serie A, and when we were linked with him, and now obviously we signed him. Did you know him beforehand, and did you
listen, he was having
one of the better keepers in Serie A?
Yeah, he is. I think if Donnarumma wasn't Donnarumma, I think he'd be. He hasn't played. He hasn't been involved that many times even in the international place. But I do think without Donnarumma, he'd probably have a little bit more of a look per se. But he's had a good season at Empoli. He's spoken of really well. He's good with the distribution at the back, and I think he's a keeper that definitely plays. Not a baseline keeper, likes to play at the edge of the box. So he does get involved in the overall modern day football. Goalkeeper is some of the way he said, some of the stuff that he does is like not a really orthodox, really unorthodox sort of keeper. But he's spoken of really well in Serie A and Italian football, and his rise to Serie A was quite quick, because I think up until 2018-19 he was playing in the lower league. So his journey has gone right up. Now that he finds himself playing in the Premier League, as he said himself. And that's why I think Postecoglou, when he spoke to him, he said that, our journeys are kind of similar. We've gone up the ranks. I'm hoping this will kick on and make him a real established goalkeeper. But guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little worried only because it's it can go one way or the other, and that's when I say about the percentages. That is the only thing. But listen, he's spoken of really well in Italy, and I hope he does succeed. We need him to succeed this season at Spurs.
Sean, how are you feeling about the topic? Have we gone cheap? Are we doing the smart option? I mean, you got to look at the likes of our competition as well. When you look at Liverpool signing Alexis McAllister, 35 million, Szoboszlai, 70 million, Declan Rice going to Arsenal for north of 100 million. I mean, how are you feeling?
I'm very comfortable right now. I think that Arsenal massively overpaid for Declan Rice. I think that he's a very good player, but he's a very much unproven in a high possession football team. And for £100 million, £105 million, you have to be absolutely certain this guy's going to hit the ground running. I don't think that I think Arsenal are going to find it very difficult to be able to improve on their midfield three from last year. But we're not talking about Arsenal. We're talking about Tottenham. In terms of Tottenham, look, you could make the argument that we've gone cheap. I agree with what Iggy said. I think you could make that argument very clearly. But at the same time, every time in the past, Tottenham have gone bigger, where we haven't gone cheap. We've ended up overpaying for players that haven't performed anyway. And the list, if you look at Tottenham's top 10 most, highest value transfers, find me more than 2 success stories in it, and I'll buy you a beer. Like I think that Tottenham haven't got a very good track record overpaying. Where we have had a good track record is finding value for money. Listen, I'll lean to Iggy's expertise on Vicario. I've done as much research as I can. Who knows what this guy could be excellent, or he might end up not being great. I don't know. But in terms of Maddison, look, you look for value for money. Is it cheap, or is it a great bit of business to get a player for a net 30 million quid? You do a double deal. You get rid of a player that no one, I don't think any Tottenham fan was expecting us to get 10 million quid for Harry Winks. Yeah. And to get James Maddison for 40, when you compare James Maddison to the likes of, I don't know, to Declan Rice and the valuations that are happening there, or even Mason Mount. They're all different players, but they all somewhat, should be considered. They've all got the English tax. They've all got their own kind of relative valuations. And I think of those three, that you can make the argument very easily that Tottenham have got the best value for money transfer there. So I'm not going to say it's shrewd. I'm not going to say it's cheap. I'm going to say right now it looks like value for money on paper. The same with Manor Solomon. I know that deal's not yet done, but I think it all depends on how Tottenham use the savings that we're not spending on players we could be going for, if we go and get the most important area of the pitch fixed this summer. And that is, of course, the centre-back area. So if we go and we bought these players in on relatively low sums, relative to what else you could have done, if we then don't go and get the business done in the centre-back spot, then, of course, we're all going to surmise this window as a cheap, typical Levy thing. But if we save that money and then go big and get ideally Tapsoba and Van der Ven, or at least one of the two, and then Tosin or somebody else, then I think we can all reflect on it being not cheap or shrewd, but just great value for money.
Yeah, I think what I will say, sorry, in addition to that is, you're right, it's early on. I mean, at the moment, we're just going on first sensations. That's all we can say. The Maddison deal was absolutely a good deal. There's no two ways about it. The fact that you're able to get rid of Winks and get him at 30 million, it's absolutely, on its own, it's a brilliant bit of business. No doubt about it. But what I'm trying to say, like, with the players that we've got in, Vicario, Maddison, and even Solomon, if comes through, I'm sure he will. It's for me, those are, even Maddison, the sort of signings that I'd expect Spurs to make, personally speaking. I wrote a tweet today saying, the last time I've gone wow when we've made a signing was Van der Vaart. That's the last time I've said wow. Could we get that over the line? I just, as a fan, all I want to say is, I want to feel that again. I'm not saying we have to have 10 signings, everyone's be wow, but every now and again, just throw us one where we can go, wow, how do we get this over the line? And this guy's going to make an absolute impact in our team. If however, we go and get Tapsoba and Van der Ven, you're like, okay, now we really have not only addressed an area that we was weak in last season, but we've actually really improved in an area that we've also needed. At the same time, trying to get rid of a few of the dead wood that we've got in our club. If we can do that, I can say, do you know what? We're on the right path here. We're on the right. I can work this. I can actually work with this, and that's all as a fan I can ask for. surely everything's not going to be done in one window. I know that, ingoings and outgoings, absolutely. But if we can start cementing that, we've addressed the creative midfield area, bringing Madison. Now we're trying, the goalkeeper thing's done. Now we're going to concentrate on the defensive part. Okay, let's get those players in. So come the 18th against West Ham, we've got the group together and we can begin that journey with the new players, because I think new faces absolutely bring a different vibe to the players. It gives you energy, it gives you focus, it gives you hunger. You say, you know what, we're starting something here, and but you got to do that at the same time by getting rid of players, unwanted players, or players that are not needed, or players that do not want to be part of this next part of the journey with Tottenham.
Sean, how would you feel, like, given the fact that, we went a bit cheaper in the keeper in Vicario as opposed to Raya, we've signed Solomon on a free transfer. If Tottenham then turn around and say, which looks like it by all the reports are saying, that we're only looking at one of Tapsoba and Van de Ven, I'm not sure if it's because of funds or maybe we're only looking at one profile. But let's say if we say they're only going to go for one of them because they feel like they can't afford, they don't want to spend, say, 80 million on two centre-backs or something. How would you feel on Tottenham kind of going for the cheaper options now and then turning around saying, actually, we can't afford these two centre-backs because that it's too expensive?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't see it as cheap. I don't see it as cheap. I think it's too early to tell. Once again, I agree with Iggy. Everything depends on what happens with the centre-backs and then what happens with the outgoings. There's so much of the story left to tell. I think you can only reflect on the window after it's happened. Even though I really, really hate the conversation of was the manager backed. I've never been a fan of it because I've always found that it's a conversation that only happens when the team struggles. If the team does well, the conversation never comes up. But at the same time, trying to be balanced, I do think that you can only look back on the window and the players you signed as cheap or shrewd or value or whatever once you've seen the whole window pan out. And for me, I again, if Tottenham go for Tapsoba but don't get Van de Ven, then if they go and get like a Tosin Adarabioyo to play back up, I think that there's a if you're looking for two centre backs, and you pick one of Tapsoba and Van de Ven, and the other one is another very good player like a Tosin to back up to Romero, then I think you could still look at it and go, all right, it's not perfect, but it's a massive improvement. If you end up with a scenario where you get Van de Ven and Longley, who appear to be the cheaper of all the options, or the least costly of all the options, then I think, given all the other things that have been going on, at the end of the window, you might look back and say, what's going on here? Once again, it's a typical Daniel Levy scenario. But at the moment, I don't want to kind of to pigeonhole it into one phrase or another, because I think there's so much more to do. I personally don't think that two centre-backs completes our window. I know we may talk about this. I'm not sure if that's on the list of things to talk about, but I genuinely have concerns about the six. I also have concerns about the fullbacks. So, and again, to Iggy's point, you can't do it all in one window. So there's lots of things that I think could still shake out. If we go for a Van de Ven and a Tosin, does that mean we saving a little bit of money there because we also are going to try and get a six to give competition for Bissouma whilst Bentancur's not fully fit? We don't know how the window pans out yet, so I think it's too early to really give it any particular pigeonholed adjective.
I think from my opinion, the way you look at things, the way we've conducted ourselves in the transfer market so far, it does seem like we are going for cheaper options than actually maybe going for our first options. I think the goalkeeping situation's a clear indicator of that. Manuel Solomon on a free transfer as well, when there potentially could have been better options where we could have spent money on. But again, I think you're completely right in what you're saying. I think a lot can change from now until the end of the transfer window. So it's very hard to judge it at this stage of a transfer window, isn't it? I mean, we're still in very early stages of July. But if we do, I can't see a situation where we do go out and get Tapsoba and Van de Ven. And for me, that will be a massive shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit, because I think both of them have spaces in the squad. Tapsoba can fill in both centre-back roles. Van de Ven can fill in the left-back and the left centre-back role. And I think they both are perfect for what we want. And if we don't push the button on both of them, realistically, we're probably going to miss out on one of them if we're aiming to go for them next summer or in January or something like that. So on the face of things, I do feel like we're going for the cheaper options, but on the flip side of that, it's more smarter than maybe what we have done in previous windows. I don't know how you feel about it, Sim.
I think, obviously, I do think that in terms of who we're going for, I do think a lot of it is like data driven. That's what we heard from the club, that we were going to go for a much more data approach at the end of last season. And I think Vicario, in terms of what his metrics lined up, I do think that is a consequence of that. And I do think Solomon, in terms of what he wanted a winger potentially, I do think has also fairly data-driven in terms of his dribbling abilities there. He's quite a young winger as well. Maddison, obviously everyone knows James Maddison, so I'm not unhappy with that deal. But what frustrates me a bit is when we're kind of... Raya was there for 40 million. Maybe there could have been some negotiation later in the window, but clearly we didn't want to wait. So we went for our second choice option, who was half the price, which I think if Raya, I do think we wanted Raya, even from a data point of view. I think we wanted Raya before we wanted Vicario. I think the data lined up and the Premier League experience, but we went for the cheaper option, which whatever. I wasn't too happy about, but it's fine. I can get on board because Vicario was good. Maddison, I was very happy with, but when it came to Solomon, all of a sudden we're signing him on a free transfer. I don't believe if this wasn't a free transfer, we would have done this deal. I don't think we would have signed him. So that does kind of bring up a few red flags, in my opinion, when it comes to how we're approaching the window. And then on top of all that, we're saving money on the goalkeeper. Yes, we spent a bit on Maddison, but 30 million in this market isn't like giant amount. And then we sent signing Solomon a free. And then now we're hearing we can only go for one of Tapsoba or Van de Ven. And then I'm thinking, why? What is the reason we can only go? Obviously, maybe late in the window, I might be proven wrong, or all the reports might be wrong, and we might sign both. But at the moment, if it is true that we're only signing one of them, let's take it at the moment that it is true. I don't understand the reason why, if we're saving all this money, where we had apparently last summer we were told we're going to go big on a left centre back this year, and there's going to be a lot more money available this year for a centre back because we didn't sign one last summer. And all of a sudden now we're hearing actually we can only go for one of them. Are we? Maybe it's a consequence of missing out on Europe. Maybe we're paying the price a bit on that. Maybe when we are missing out on that extra revenue that we would have gotten if we were in Champions League or even Europa League, which obviously we've been used to. Go on, Sean.
Sim, I just feel... I'm sorry, mate. Yeah, I feel like, it would be a little bit... disingenuous to accept that answer about the Europe thing, because I've already seen people pushing out the narrative that Tottenham have spent, the most in this transfer window because we're including the Pedro Porro deal, because we're including the Decky deal, which, by the way, again, Daniel Levy, I think it's fair to say, in isolation, has done well to reduce the 25%, reduce the fee by 25% that was agreed. However, if we're including that in the net spend of this year, then it wasn't included in the net spend of last season when we did have Champions League revenue. So I don't think that Tottenham can I don't think that Daniel Levy can have it both ways. If he wants us to recognise and appreciate the things that were happening last year, then we're not going to be able to include those budgets and those expenses in this season's figures. I think we have to call a spade and say that we have got one of the highest revenue streams, generating football clubs, outside of people that have weird mechanisms to generate revenue in world football. And thus far, if you exclude, and you should exclude Porro and Kulusevski, then we're at about £40 million spent, aren't we? £45 million spent.
Yeah. And you would hope, and not only that, you would hope to get, obviously we've got 10 million for Winks. We hope to get money for Sanchez. We hope to get money for Lo Celso. There's probably a few other players as well, one or two other players we could get some money back for. I'm not talking serious money, but you're probably talking like you could get 30 million between 30 and 40 million back from sales as well this window. So to add on top of that, so I don't see, and you see like Arsenal, spending. I understand maybe they overspent on Rice, but when we're in the Champions League, we would never have spent 100 million on any
but
player.
look what Arsenal were doing 2 years ago when they had no Europe at all.
They signed Pepe for 70 million.
But not even after that. 2 years ago, they've been the biggest spenders in the Premier League for 3 seasons in a row. I think last season, someone else overpipped them just a bit, but 2 out of the last 3 years, they've spent a crazy amount of money, and they've only had Champions League football this one summer. So I think if you're going to blame us not spending big amounts of money or not being in the Champions League, I think it's just an excuse. It really is just an excuse.
And so I can get on board with the signings we have now. I'm not saying I'm not happy with Solomon and Vicario and Maddison. I think they're 3 good signings. But if we're going to kind of go for cheaper options now and still say, oh, we can only go for one of Tapsoba and Van de Ven, but that would be hugely frustrating for me, and I think that should represent a frustration in the fan base, because we know that the defence has needed major surgery for a very long time. The solution is pretty much staring us in the face. There are 2 players who are young, high quality, who would really help sort out the defence, and good rotation options.
100%.
They're versatile players as well. It's literally there for us, and we're saying that we can only go for one because we don't want to spend that amount of money twice, basically. That would be hugely frustrating. And so obviously I don't want to judge it right now, but if what we are hearing is true and we're only going to go for one of them, that for me isn't good enough. That's not good enough from the hierarchy if that's true.
And also you look at it as well, like in the Maddison signing. I know we got a great deal on Maddison and no one can criticise that one, but if we had to pay like what he's actually worth in the £60 million mark, would we actually have gone for him? I have my doubts. I don't think we would have done. So I genuinely believe we are going for the cheaper option at the moment. What you want to chime in there, Iggy?
Yeah, all I was going to say, guys, that we have to address the areas where we fundamentally flawed last season, and the defence is absolutely one of them. So you're right. 2 centre backs have to be because look, let's have it right. This season is also a big season for Romero, but we have to really be able to judge him playing along someone that he can really
absolutely
feed off, And if you got players, because Tapsoba can also play at left back, so if we got players there that are not, I don't know what the situation with Reguilon is. I don't know what Sessegnon's going to happen this season. We don't even know if Udogie is part of Postecoglou's plans, because he was signed under Conte, so he can turn around and say, do you know what? He's got market in Italy. There's the teams over there that want him. We can cash in on him as well. So what I'm trying to say is that I think even without you, we need those 13, 14 quality players in there. We do need to have a really good first 13, 14 players. And the other players, I don't care. You can fill in the trimmings with the Solomons or the free transfers. I've got no problem with that. Bring in a few of the kids academy to bolster up the rest of the numbers. But I think the 13, 14 players have got to be in the same level. Not knowing what's going to happen with Kane as well, because that will probably have to be addressed at some point or another if he stays on or not. Because if Kane goes, then we've got another big hole there to fill. If we have those players in the squad already, ready to fit, I'm talking about Richarlison and players like that. Are they ready to fill in for what Kane ultimately what we'll be missing out from him? So there's areas there that I think I want to praise the club and say what the Maddison deal was a good deal. We've acknowledged that. We got Bentancur, who's got to come back. I think Bissouma, we've got to have him somewhere along the lines closer to what he was at Brighton than what we've seen at Spurs. There are, and obviously in the midfield, we do have cover with Skip and Sarr. Again, depending on what we decide to do with him. Højbjerg, we can cash in on him. I think that can be invested again in the squad if it means that we need to get the funds in. If he's your best asset and you can think, I can do without him, get the money in and reinvest it in the squad. I'm not saying that we shouldn't sell to finance those players coming in, but it has to be acknowledged that those areas that are required, defence and the goalkeeper and the attacking mid, we have to address those areas. Then I'm happy with Decky, as Sean mentioned, Decky signing, staying on. I think he'd be a really good player. I think we'll see another player. And attacking football, it could be a real asset for us. So, but we have to address those areas, man. For me, what a statement that would make if we can get both Tapsoba and Van de Ven in. It's like make us all go, you know what? Okay, now we're being serious. Now we'll be taking serious. When you start hearing, we're saving here, we're saving there and there, but we're not. We're only get the other. it just sounds to me, to the ear, same old, same old. That's the impression that we get. We know, that's it, guys.
Just to round off this topic, let's just go around the room and just one answer, and we're going to say cheap or smart. We'll start off with you, Sean.
That's not,
You have to choose one, Sean.
you guys
You
are
have to choose
terrible,
one.
man. You guys are terrible.
This is outrageous.
As of now, it doesn't have. As of now,
thus far, I'm going to say smart. Thus far,
Iggy.
smart.
Cheap, man. Come on, it's cheap.
I'm going cheap. I'm going cheap as well. Sim.
I think, thus far, I'm going to go smart, but if we don't sign 2 centre-backs, I'm going cheap.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the centre-back situation.
Before you do,
covering all angles, Mr. Sim over there. Caveat. Always with a caveat.
He's looking for the clip. The clips are coming out later on. We've all had to go one word. Sim gets the.
Yeah, exactly. He gets the caveat. He can cut, trim, paste, whatever you want.
You don't get caveats, Sean. That's a privilege. Sean, by the way, I just want to say, John George in the comments says, I'm madly in love with Sean and Bugsy. He seems to be a big fan of you, Shawnee.
Yo, I think we've gone through this before. I'm pretty certain this guy doesn't like me, but I'm not. I'm not sure.
Sorry, I didn't want to. I shouldn't have brought it up. My bad. I thought he was being genuine.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sim's got piles of mud here. He's just ready to throw at all of you. But let's move on and let's talk about the centre-back situation. We have touched on it a little bit already. But starting off with you, Sean, how many centre-backs do you think we need this transfer window?
How many do we need? How many new centre-backs do we need?
Yeah.
I think we need bare minimum 2. In a dream world scenario, you go and get 3. I think that we spoke about this, right? So if you've got Van der Ven offers the double pivot of being able to play left-sided centre-back with the left foot, which is, for purposes of balance, very important. He can also play left-back. If you bring in Tapsoba, he can play left-sided centre-back with the right foot. He's a better player. He's more well-rounded. He does everything you really need, but he doesn't have the left foot. But you can also bring him in when Romero, I'm not sure if my internet's about to collapse. Let me know if you can't hear me anymore. But
all good.
with you can bring in, if Romero gets injured or he disappears or he's on suspension or whatever else, then you can put Tapsoba over there. Those 2 make massive sense to me, 100%. However, if you have to pick another one that's not one of those 2, I'm a massive fan of Tosin Adarabioyo. I'm also a massive fan of Hiroki Ito from Stuttgart. I think this kid is super cheap. He won't cost a fortune. I think from what I've looked into him, I think he's gonna go. He might go to Napoli as a replacement for Kim Min-jae, but he's available. I think he would fit the system. He played very, very well in a high line back 4. And listen, I'm not even that offended by the idea of getting Victor Nelson from Galatasaray. 2 out of 2 centre backs improves us. 3 is transformatory, and I think you could easily make the argument that you can move on Eric Dyer, Sanchez, and Joe Rodon. You know, Ben Davies can play the versatile
Tanganga.
25-man. Oh, and Tanga.
Oh, and there's his internet.
We have a hell of a lot of defenders. Obviously, a couple of them.
No, you're back. You're back.
Am I gone?
No, you're back. Can you hear us?
Am I back? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. In a nutshell, 2 centre backs is the bare minimum. 3 would be a dream world, and I don't think they're necessarily going to cost the world. I think if you could go and get Van der Ven for 30, but you could also go and get Hiroki Ito for 15. You could go and get. You could maybe do some sort of swap deal for Tanganga to Galatasaray. I really think Victor Nelson would suit the system as well. There's lots of options out there. You haven't got to break the bank, but you have to find players that are that are the perfect fit for the specificities of a high line, high press defense, of which none of our current defenders can do, with the exception of maybe Romero. And I've even got question marks about him, by the way, but the rest of them cannot play the high line, high defense. They haven't got the pace. They haven't got the turning circle. They're not good enough in the air. They can't do any of the things that you need. There are players out there that are cheaper than what you have, that are better fits for the system. And it's all about square pegs for square holes or horses for courses. And at the moment, we don't have anything like it. So in an ideal world, 3, but bare minimum 2.
Can you understand why maybe Eric Dyer isn't being talked about a sale, and we're looking to keep him maybe for the next season until his contract runs out? I mean, that really frustrates me.
No, I can't understand it. Like, he hasn't shown any level of competence for what we're doing. What we are asking of Tottenham right now, right? And this is why I will always push this message. We are going to have a very rocky start to life under Ange, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think if we get through the first three months and we are, 7th or 8th after 3 months into the season, then fair play to Postecoglou for getting everything working, because I'm expecting a very, very bumpy start to life. Just because you're asking the players that we want to keep to learn a new system that is alien to them, when we're going to be asking 6 players or whatever it is to come in to learn not just the new system, but the chemistry with the players. There's so much change going on. And for me, none of the back 4, with the exception of Romero, have that experience of playing the specificities of a high line, high press. You need to be good in the air, because if you affect the press the way you want it to be done, the goalkeeper's going to be launching the ball back towards you. You've got to recycle it very well. You need to be strong in the air. You need to be able to break the line. Be the person that creates the start of the movement by breaking the line. You also need to be fast, quick, adaptable. There's so many things you need, and none of those skill sets come very easily to players like Eric Dyer, Ben. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me if my internet's breaking up.
Yeah, we can. All loud and clear, my friend.
We can hear you. Look,
Iggy?
Yeah, for me, I completely agree with the technical part of it. The biggest thing that we struggled with last season was playing from the back, playing football from the back, a defender that can actually play a pass, so it's slick pass from the back without actually being read by the opposition. Because a lot of the times when I've seen the team, it was so easily read by the opposition what we was going to do. Some players were comfortable doing it, other players weren't. It was too predictable. Dyer falls into that part of it as well. The goalkeeper was awful as well with the distribution. So I think that part of it needs to be recognised. It has to have certain characteristics. One that would complement Romero's, not the way he plays, but also sometimes his rashness. Some of them can calm. We need, and also, and maybe it's too much to expect for one defender to just bring all of this. Leadership qualities. Someone's very talkative at the back. Aerial. I remember, we were so weak from corner kicks as well. So they need to have aerial presence as well. But you're right. If we're going to play high up the line, you've got to be in a situation where you can deal with a defender being one-on-one with your forward. They've got to be able to deal with that situation. Not always having to have people around them just so they don't feel exposed. I don't want to have an extra defender playing next to the other 2 defenders just because he's worried about getting exposed. I don't want to see that. In regards to Dyer, I don't see any part of him, especially not at the back. I don't see any part of him being involved. Why? I'm hearing that we're looking to keep him on. I don't know if he's got much market going on. Could it be a situation where he goes on to do what he did under Pochettino, playing the 6? Could it be an option there? If not at the back, I don't know. That could be revisited. Listen, not for me. I'm just saying the possibilities that could happen. For me, he could be out. He should be out. We should be looking to move him on. But what is it about all the managers that come in that see something in this guy and they're going to have? I can't get my head around it. I don't know what they see. I would love to spend more time in training at Hotspur Way just to see what these guys see every time they come through the door. Dyer, yeah, I like him.
It's because he can speak Portuguese and Spanish, so he's got that link between Romero and them. That's the only reason I can think of.
If this guy's so good, why doesn't he have the market out there? Why doesn't he have any other Premier League team that want to look to bring him in? There's nothing. There's nothing going on with regards to him. So it's going to be a tough one to shake him off. I really do believe that.
Sim, what are you feeling?
For me, I think it depends, obviously, on outgoings. For me, in terms of the Dyer situation, because he's been a a player for such a long time. He's kind of part of the furniture at Tottenham for coming up to 10 years now. I think you kind of have to respect that in a bit. But if you're going to say we're keeping Eric Dyer's not leaving, he wants to stay, he believes he wants to fight for his place and he doesn't want to leave, and he's been here for 9 years, so you're gonna allow him to see out the last year of his contract, fine. But then you have to sign 2 centre-backs who are good enough to be challenging for the first team in that aspect. If you're gonna allow Dyer to leave, then okay, I'm all right with bringing in a Tosin or someone who's cheaper, and that's okay, because you can have a backup in that aspect if Dyer's going to leave. But if Dyer's going to stay, which I'm not happy about, then I don't want to hear excuses about not being able to afford a Van de Ven or a Tapsoba, because you need to have 2 centre backs who are able to challenge for the first team and push each other and not see each other as one to back up one's first team. That shouldn't be how we're seeing it if there's 3 centre backs challenging each other, because if Eric Dyer is there, essentially we have 1 centre back who ain't fit for purpose. Essentially, that's the reality. You look at last season when we played a back 3, we had Romero, Dyer, Davis, Longley, Sanchez. So essentially, only 1 centre back who can play in the back in a back 2 that we're looking for this season. So the thought when you take that into consideration, the thought of us not needing more than 2 centre backs like that being fanciful is ridiculous, because when you've gone from 5 centre backs we had last season and only one of them is good enough to play in a back 2, so obviously you're going to need to invest heavily in that aspect. Now, as I said, I understand if you want to keep Dyer around, but then you have to invest heavily in at least 2 centre backs. You have to, otherwise we need 3, in my opinion, which includes one who's a bit cheaper. But we need to be spending. For me, we're not spending, but we need to be getting 2 centre-backs in who we believe can come in and be good enough to be in our first team and challenging each other. Not a Longley. I don't want that person to be one of the 2. Not even a Tosin. I don't want him to be one of the 2 if we're keeping Dyer. I want someone Guehi has to be one of them, or a Van de Ven, or a Tapsoba, someone who we really believe can come in and command.
Set the tone.
I'm not saying Tosin is bad, but again, we're only interested in him because he's cheap. If he was a Tapsoba price, we wouldn't be interested, would we? And that tells me we're only looking at him because he's at a decent price point for us, and we believe he can do a job, but we don't really believe he's ever going to be a first team player for us.
Do you know what, guys? It's just like what I was saying earlier.
Guehi's only interesting because he's expensive. I think Guehi is so overrated; it's not even funny.
I mean, look, that's fair enough, but I believe Guehi. 22 years of age, he's been consistent for Palace the last 2 seasons. He's had some England call-ups now as well. Like, I think we believe if we're signing Guehi, we're signing because we believe he could be our starting centre-back for a long time. We believe he's going to be a very good Premier League centre-back. I don't believe we signed Tosin for 50 million because we believe he could really be a starting centre-back for us on a consistent basis.
That goes for every signing that we're making at the moment. That goes for the goalkeeper. That goes for Maddison. That goes for every single signing that we're made. That goes for Solomon. Would we be signing any of these guys if they were at a higher price point? No, we wouldn't. That's just where we're at. The thing is, guys, they need to take a long look at that.
You got to get the balance right. You don't mind bringing one or two of those players that young, on the way up, and also given the age, it can there's a value there, can be an instant value as a time. I don't mind that. But we've got to also, I was saying earlier on about the percentages. You want to have a situation of players coming in with the highest rate percentage of succeeding. You can't take too many of those gambles. And for me, like players like Tapsoba, who's played 45 games as Alonso, he's got European experience. The percentages of him succeeding compared to someone else is going to be far greater. So that for me, that means that you have to spend a little bit more. Players like you just mentioned now, it's like, the Fulham player at the Bayo, he can do it. It might do or it might not. Van de Ven is spoken about really well. We don't know the goalkeeper. We need to see. You see what I'm saying? There's too many of them all coming in together. If it goes well, it's brilliant. If it doesn't, then what is your backup plan? Resorting back to the players that you've already got, seen, tried, and tested. I want to see hungry, players that really want to do well, they want to succeed, and the highest percentage possible of doing so.
I
Because
think,
otherwise,
Iggy, you know what, mate?
then you really are in trouble if that doesn't happen. Because Postecoglou was so play these guys, but then if how long would it take to he has to look back and resort to go back into Dyer and stuff like that? And to be honest with you, that does not fill me with any kind of confidence. But also, I want to be excited by somebody that I haven't seen or don't know too well, or somebody perhaps that you want to explore. To going back to the tried and tested over and over again over the years, for me, that doesn't fill me with any kind of excitement, guys. I'll be level with you.
If Tottenham go and sign Mickey van der Ven, Tosin Adarabioyo, and Manuel Solomon, and we end up 12th next season, everyone will be saying Ange wasn't backed. But if Tottenham go and sign Mark Guehi and Tapsoba and whoever else, and we end up 12th next season, people will still say that Tottenham, that Ange didn't get what he wanted, because there's always someone bigger, always someone more expensive.
I would say now, if he got Guehi and Tapsoba for that, and he couldn't get us to improve that defence, then I'd have to ask questions of
Postecoglou. What have you seen from
Postecoglou.
Mark Guehi? To me, this is obviously a subjective thing, but I think Mark Guehi is bang average. I think he is expensive because he's English and because he's young. If you are like me personally, I spent a lot of time having discussions with people about Mark Guehi. I feel like I know him. I feel like I remember watching him get out-positioned, out-bodied, bullied. I feel like I don't rate him at all. But because he comes with a £60 million price tag, there's an expectation on his head. If someone comes in at 20 million quid, who no one's really heard of, let's be honest, most Tottenham fans are not going to, if they're really honest, are not going to be too familiar with Mickey van der Ven. If van der Ven comes in and smashes it, everyone's like, wow, we got the next Toby Alderweireld, we got the next whatever, right? But if he doesn't come, if he comes in and struggles, then it's going to be tight. It's going to be tagged as the cheap option. We should have gone for Guehi, but there's no guarantee that anything changes with Guehi either. Or I'll use that example. You can make the same argument for like any other player. Like, to me, it shouldn't matter what the price tag is. It should matter whether Ange Postecoglou has run his eye over the player and said, this is who I want, this is who I didn't. And the best example of that is with Vicario. I really wanted David Raya. I thought David Raya was the perfect fit. But the rumours that came out, or the story that came out after the fact, was that Ange Postecoglou said, no, I want Vicario. And if he wanted Vicario, and that's the reason we got him, not because Brentford wouldn't budge on a ridiculous asking price, if it's true, and we'll never really know, but if it's true that Ange wanted Vicario, then that should be enough, and we shouldn't be worrying about whether it's.
I don't believe that was the situation at all with Vicario. I just think Brentford wouldn't budge on the 40 million price. We weren't going to pay 40 million, so we'll go to the next one down on the list and push the button on him for 17 million. I think it's as simple as that.
On what basis are you saying that, Ben?
That's my personal opinion. I don't have any evidence to back that up. That's just what I think has happened.
Fair enough.
But it's just the feeling is the feeling that I get, and again, you're right. There's no saying that your theory or what my theory is the right one, your one is wrong, or vice versa, because we don't know the true fact. Just the sensation that I get from it personally is that we never get the intended target. Say, do you know what? If that's the price, because they're right, the transfer market this summer, Saudi Arabia and what have you, the prices have been absolutely ridiculous. Right? No, it's about it. It's been absolutely astronomical prices. But what Spurs leave me personally is like, they never go and get that number one target. If it fits the price and everything else, and we can get him, we do. But if not, do you know what? Let's look for the next one. There's nothing wrong with that, because the second option might turn around and be the better for you, or better fit than the first option might have been. But it's just like, sometimes you just want to make a bold statement and say, you are the one I want, you are the one I'm getting. That's the thing. Sometimes just making a statement and giving that impression, you know what, if the price is right for a certain player and it fits what we want, we get them. But we won't shy away if the one that's going to, completely change change your team. And that's what we're looking for. Players that's going to absolutely change our team for the better and say, you know what, let's go and give the... Sometimes it's about just giving to the fans. Let's get that player for him. Of course,
Sure.
I always say again, that percentage to be high because you do want him to succeed. You don't want him to spend 60 million and then he's not good enough.
Yeah, sure. I'm not saying it's about price necessarily. Oh, well, obviously price comes into it because if you want better defenders, usually they're a bit more expensive. But like when it comes to like someone like Tosin, I'm not saying I don't want us to sign him, but do it like if we sign him for 15 million or whatever it is, 10 million, because he's got 1 year left in his contract, he's 25 million. Are we really signing him because we believe this centre back can be really challenging or even be our first choice centre back, and him and Romero will be really good partners, or even him and Van de Ven are going to be really good partners, and we believe this guy is going to be really challenging the first team? Or are we just signing him because we believe he's going to be a squad option? And I'm not mad at that, but don't sign him and only one other centre back who we believe is going to be a part of the first team. I think we need two defenders who the club have really identified can challenge each other to really have for that first choice slot in the centre back position.
And at the moment, if you give me two options of Romero and Dyer behind him, or Romero and Tosin, I'm choosing Romero and Tosin all day long. If you're giving me the options of Romero and Guehi or Romero and Tosin, if I'm entirely honest, if 15 million quid gets you Tosin, but it's going to cost you 60 million to get Guehi, there's absolutely no way in a million years is Guehi 4 times the player that Tosin is. Absolutely not. Like, absolutely no chance. He's not even twice the player. He's probably a marginal improvement, in my opinion. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's massively overrated by a football club who don't need the money the same way that other clubs do. And because of his English thing, because of his 22 years old, because he had a good season, there's this overexcitement about a player. It happens.
Okay, it doesn't
all
have to
the
be
time.
Guehi though. It could be, I don't know. So it could be someone else. It could be Ibanez from Roma. It could be Kilman from Wolves. It could be someone else.
Tapsoba. Tapsoba's the perfect one. Tapsoba is perfect for our team. Absolutely perfect for our team, right? And we're going to go for the cheaper option in Van de Ven. And I'm not saying Van de Ven's a bad player. I like Van de Ven. But right now, to fit into that team, to revolutionise that defence, you go and get a Tapsoba. And the price difference is not even that difference. You're talking about 15 million or so more than Van de Ven.
We don't know that though, right? Like everyone was talking about the fact that Tapsoba was apparently available for 35. And then it comes out of the woodwork that Arsenal walked away from him in January because they wanted 60 million for him. So we don't know what the ins and outs. Listen, I made my stake clear. Tapsoba is my first choice because I think he is a brilliant footballer, a brilliant athlete. I think he's fantastic in the air. I think he's brilliant at being able to bring the ball out. I think he does everything that you need for the specificities of a high line back four role. He also has the characteristics that can get back and cover in the scenario when you have the fullbacks that we currently do have that are probably more better suited as wing backs that are going to leave positions and situations where we're going to be in trouble. You're going to need someone who can get back and cover and do that. So Tapsoba makes a lot of sense, far more sense than Guehi does. So if you're saying spend 60 million on Guehi or 50 million on Tapsoba, again, it's a no-brainer. You go and get Tapsoba, but Tottenham are not in the position where you can just go to the candy shop and not just get the one thing that you want, but get everything you want. You have to make sacrifice. You have to pick one or two of the others. And listen, I'm not sitting here saying trust in Daniel Levy. I'm not saying that. I'm not making that claim at all because I know that he has got a history of going for the cheaper option. But right now, we don't know what the grandmaster plan is. And I would urge us to sit there and say, hopefully this time, which is stage one of a massive rebuild, where you probably are going to end up seeing the vast majority of the squad turnover over the next 18 months to 2 years, that you have to go in stages. And I don't think that spending 60 on a Guehi or going over the top for someone that's going to play behind Romero is a logical sense. But I agree with both of you, agree with all three of you that whoever Ange wants in the back three, on the back two on the left-hand side, go and get it. But I don't think necessarily the argument is that we're going cheap just because we're not going for the higher value player. I don't necessarily agree with that.
But if we do... Go on, Iggy.
Sorry, go on. No, I was going to say is but this is what 13, 14 players of quality quality where you can say, do you know what, we've got one game a week, domestic cups. You're not asking 25 players, you're asking 13, 14 players, because given the games that you're playing, and you can bolster the rest of the squad with the youngsters, but make those 13 players quality, like in the areas that you require. Because I think only that way we can really start take shape in the next season. You can start once you get Europe, hopefully get back into Europe, then you can start adding more to the play. But for now, I just think I'd rather just make that squad a little bit smaller, but make it really good. And in the areas that we need to really require invest in, go and get your man. Go and get the men that you require. Get them in early, because let's have it right, guys. We're playing football again in 2 weeks' time. Before you know it, the season starts. It's happening so fast.
Yeah.
Cannot wait.
Absolutely. But the thing is, what I'm worried about massively in this backline, especially if we're going to go for like the young up and coming defenders, and Tapsoba's probably included in that, I'm worried about where is the leadership going to come in this team for next season. You're looking at the likes.
Who's the captain, Ben? Who's the captain?
Who is the captain?
Kane?
Harry Kane, 1 year left in his contract?
Kane. Ben, how can you have an argument in the middle of the season? Let's say some things are not going right, and a captain's giving me a rollicking. I'm like, you're leaving at the end of the season. Don't tell me what to do. When you've got a situation like in the changing rooms, you've got to think of all scenarios. And you think, who's you telling me when you could be going on in the next few months? Shut up, mate. That's what I would say to him. And I'm like, you need to counter that. You need to start bringing in leaders in there. You know what? If we need to go to Celtic to get 1 or 2 players that Postecoglou relied on, to, like, I don't know, is it McGregor that played in midfield? He relied on. So you need to start looking at all those factors. And because if Højbjerg goes, which is what I'm told, people say he's the leader on the pitch. If he goes, then he's not going to. Who are you giving that armband to exactly? So we need to really start being serious about who we get in, the player we get in, and what he brings on, just not on a technical and tactical point of view, but also from a character. That's why I'm relying heavily on Postecoglou picking the character that we require for this team.
Iggy, I 100% agree with what you're saying. 1,000,000% agree with what you're saying, right? It's a very difficult, delicate situation. But let me just counter that. Do you buy a player right now and let them come into a dressing room where they know nobody?
No, that's dangerous. That's also dangerous.
And give them the captain's armband.
Listen, it happened 4 seasons ago, 4 at Milan. This very situation where that young Milan team was on there, but they weren't quite there. A lot of youngsters. Bonucci was bought from Juventus, was given an armband straight away, which was stripped off from Montolivo. That did not go down well. So, and amongst the players that are already there, that perhaps felt like being a captain, weren't giving it, and he was giving it. That was part of the deal. That was dangerous going. It didn't work out. It was disastrous. So you're right.
What's the solution? I don't know what the solution is. We are a squad without a leader. I 100% agree with you that Harry Kane is, like, if it's true what we've seen today, that he's taking constant contact or whatever with Thomas Tuchel and he wants out. And listen, we'll find out what happens in that. It's a different conversation for a different day. But ultimately, he makes the logical sense as long as his head is in the game. If it's not, then he doesn't. Absent him, where do you go? Where do you go with the?
You can only go 2 ways: Højbjerg or Son. But you're giving it to them.
You could have Dyer as captain.
You don't want Dyer in the squad.
You see
that? I don't.
No, so what do? You give it to Sonny. Sonny doesn't talk. The only time I've ever seen
Sonny you're doing it. I'll only be giving it to Sonny to avoid that scenario I've just mentioned about Bonucci. But you're absolutely right. But Postecoglou, I'm told, in the summer, this is what he did at Celtic. In that, when he joined, he looked to see who could relay the information he requires out there, and that's why McGregor got it. So it's a big one. It's a big call, man. The way you look at it.
What about Bentancur? I mean, I've seen a bit of leadership qualities. I know he's out for a while now, but what about him? Could he throw his name in the ring for a leadership role?
Not bad shout.
It's a good shout. He's one of the shortlist. He's on the shortlist. Does he speak English fluently, Ben?
That I'm not sure. I've never spoken to him.
Do you know what? When he joined, I had a very brief conversation with him, and his English went out. It got to the point where I asked something he didn't understand, and I ended up speaking to him in Italian. So his English last year, anyway, wasn't as great. Whether it's
Yeah.
improved it tenfold in the last 12 months remains to be seen. But listen, if he'd
What
been
about Pedro
fit,
Porro? Was Pedro Porro? Is he a leader on the pitch? I kind of maybe.
Pedro Porro, you can't put him as captain. No way. No way. He's only just come in January. He's a kid as well. Like, nah.
So it'd have to be Romero.
Okay. So if not him, then who is it? If not him, if
It's
we're
only-
ruling
guys,
out
it's
him
only Son.
on the basis
Son.
of being young and the basis
it
of
can
being
only be Son. Out of
Sonny.
seniority,
Sonny.
it can only be Son, guys.
And I think
Because
that's
he's captain for his country already.
Captain. I think that's a really weak choice of captain.
Skip.
It is something
captain?
to think about, guys, because we're struggling to come up with someone. It just goes to show that that's definitely something that needs to be sorted out. But you know what, people, it may be a case of keeping it with Kane. Why wouldn't you? But listen, I don't question that. Even if Kane were to stay, wouldn't take his job seriously. I know it's like we all know how professional he is, but I'm just thinking if we predict that, like you said earlier, having 4 months where we go a bit, it could be a little bit. That's when you're going to have those conversations in the changing rooms. And how quickly will it be to someone go, "Hang a minute, what I said earlier"? Who are you to tell me? When you're going to have that. If someone's like, got a bit of fire in them, we'll tell them straight. Don't tell me when you're buggering off for 6 months. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the chat's leaning towards Christian Romero. I mean, how would you feel about Cuti Romero as captain?
He's not. He doesn't act like a captain. He acts like a lunatic.
Yeah, but if you give him more responsibility, could he rise up to that challenge?
It could go one way or the other, isn't he?
There's a chicken and the egg. You don't give someone responsibility in the hope that they're going to lean into it. You give them responsibility after they've lent into it. It's a chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think Romero's the guy.
I'm not mad at the Sonny call. I think that everyone loves him. I think he would, with the captain's armband, maybe he would act a bit differently. Maybe he would start to command a bit more respect. He's captain for his country. He's been at the club for a while. He's not the strongest character, but maybe that would change if he gets the armband. Maybe he would change his character a bit. Who knows? I think that's probably the best choice.
With Son captain and Kane potentially on his way out, it almost sometimes this situation favour those kind of players where they feel maybe stifled from the presence of Kane or something like that, and they come into their own when the sort of that there's a situation where things clear up the path for him. So you never know. You don't know this tested, but to keep the dressing room calm. To keep the dressing room as one and not risk that it could tip over, that would probably the one I would look towards. Is he the right one? I agree with you. It doesn't send me like captain vibes on the pitch, certainly with his character, but it could be the safer option. But Postecoglou, like I said, he picks his man during the summer. He would identify which character, and he looked to give the impression that he won't have a problem giving it to a new player if he feels he's the right man for the job.
All right, guys, let's move on. And I know Sim's going to love this next topic. And it's of all the reports coming out today, apparently we've rejected a £20 million offer for Tanguy Ndombele. So should Tanguy Ndombele get another chance? Iggy, you're laughing already, so I'll let you start off with this one.
My gosh, this guy is the bean in my bonnet. I tell you, man. Ben, I know that he's your favourite either, but listen, this guy, maybe I should move away from Morecambe, but I keep going back to it. For me, this goes beyond technical ability, which he has in abundance. This goes beyond any. We know what he could potentially be, but when I think post Morecambe, it's just not a one-off episode, isn't it? When you think of Spalletti calling him aside at the end of the game at the San Siro saying you should have been over there, and he didn't quite make the grade as in being first team football at Napoli. He didn't quite make the grade. I haven't seen anything to make me think that this guy has changed. I haven't, and he still gets. I really listen. If Postecoglou really believes that he can change him around, I'd say, do you know what? Give it a go and see how it goes. 20 million. It's not enough. I mean, given the price that everyone else is going about, it's not enough. If you think, you know what, get 20 million and reinvest it in someone else that we could do better with. I go back to saying the same thing. We need players that can we could say, do you know what? It's a good chance that he'll succeed. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Listen, if he does, if Postecoglou can get it out of him, turn down. But the clips that Simba is been putting out on Ndombele, I'm not too convinced because in training, it's just like, losing, winning the tackle, losing the ball at the same moment. It's just like, I don't know, man.
He won a tackle.
I have murders with everyone about Ndombele, and everyone's giving him a chance as a talent there, and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at this guy's eyes, I'm looking at his character, and I'm thinking, is this guy really what Tottenham need? And more importantly, do we need to chance this again when we've seen it happening over and over again? I don't see any reasons to think that he's going to change his ways. He hasn't given me anything to think that he can change his ways, and I just got a feeling I'm going to lose. I know with him during the season when I see him play. I just see that happening again. I don't want that. I don't know how you guys feel about him.
Let's go to Sean on this one.
Yeah, very simple for me, guys. If it's true, and I didn't give it any credibility earlier because I was like, why would anyone not take your 20 million and run? Thank you very much.
Right.
Sign the contract. Sayonara.
I don't think anyone actually bid 20 million, but I think it was just saying that they might want to bid, and aggregators have said, oh, that means it's a bid, but no one's actually made a bid.
Right. And if that's the case, then obviously there's not really a story, is there? But if yeah, to me, look, Ange Postecoglou is a typical hard-working Antipodean from that part of the world. If you happen to be someone that's got a bit of graft about you, then you probably have a great personality. And thus far, I think you can point to a couple of stories where you go, this guy's got this ability to convince people about buying into something. He did it with Vicario. He's done it with Maddison. How often do you really hear about, in the introductory interview, about being won over by a story that's being told by the manager? And I think that, look, Ange is someone that's going to win over a lot of people. But winning over versus buying in versus getting blood from a stone are different things. I don't think that Ndombele's talent is in question, but his work rate is very much in question. And is having a manager who speaks in a lovely, soft tone and has the ability to convince you to work hard, is that enough? When you're running hard and your body tells you you've had enough, stop. Is that voice of an Australian accent in your head going to convince you to carry on going? I don't think so. I think that Ndombele just isn't cut out for hard work. He's a very talented guy. And listen, if £20 million is on the table, if it is, you have to take it. You have to take it. And in an ideal world, I'm okay with the idea of a bid coming in and Daniel Levy not saying no, but saying not yet. We have to let our new manager run his eye over the player. But just don't walk away, because I've got a good inkling that in a little while he's gonna come back and say he doesn't want him anyway, and I think that's what's going to happen. For me personally, I think that Ange will want to run his eye over the player, but eventually they'll come to the natural conclusion that the guy doesn't have enough about him to work to the levels that are expected of a player in the Ange system. So, if there's any truth to the £20 million bid, I really hope that they can figure out a way to keep it. Sorry, Ben. Sorry.
Sim?
No, I for one would definitely welcome Ndombele given another chance, in my opinion. Obviously, all the caveats are in place. What Ange wants. If Ange really has to look at him and thinks I don't want anything to do with him, and there is money on the table, you have to take it for sure. But for me, the talent that he has, and that he has shown at times in his career, maybe not so much over the last couple of years, but even in the Tottenham shirt, there was a spell under Mourinho who was playing very well.
That's all it's ever been, is spells.
Yeah, it definitely spells, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think the talent that he has, it's so rare, and it's not often found, even in some of the best central midfielders. I struggle to find a midfielder that can do what he can do on the ball in tight spaces. If Ange can really change his mentality and get him to do a lot of the hard work, and you got to remember as well, the hard work is going to be different kind of hard work to what it was under Mourinho or under Conte.
It's going to be harder.
You could say it's going to be hard. Maybe it'll be harder, but maybe it could be
harder. Hard work. You're asking them to run off the ball more.
Oh, but yeah,
Do you
but
know-
in a different way. It's not going to be necessarily just always tracking back constantly, always getting
No,
into
it's
your own
the
half,
press.
getting into
It's the
position.
press.
Exactly. So he's going to be
It's the
going
most
forward.
exhausting style of football.
Yeah, but he's going to be going closer to goal. It's going to be higher up the
But
pitch.
what has
Maybe
told
it's
you
more-
that he
maybe it's gonna
prefers
be-
doing the hard work going forward than going backwards? He's just anti-hard work in general.
Oh, we don't know that. We don't know that
The-
because
the
all the
only
managers
saving
we've
grace-
had, we haven't had a high pressing manager when he's been at the club, so we haven't seen him attempt that kind of hard work.
Are you
when-
hanging on to? Is your bring him home rhetoric? Are you hanging on to the fact that this guy, we don't know, we cannot confirm, but there's an outside chance that he prefers to work forward rather than
Not
working
prefers, but Ange might be able to get him to get into his mentality, to get into his head and find the right
His legs don't
motivation.
work going the other
If
way. His legs
Ange-
only work going
It's
that
like
way.
a cow. You can lead a cow uphill, but you can't walk it downhill.
There are players who are much better in a high pressing system than sitting deeper. That's true. Maybe he's one of them. Maybe he's more suited to in a more of a high press kind of running. Than
That's
he
his
is
only saving
in a
grace.
system that is always constantly having to run back into his own half and be more positionally disciplined than maybe an Ange system where it's more about hounding the opposition, winning the ball back quickly, and having a lot more possession than it is about defending. Under Mourinho and Conte, we didn't care about having possession. It was more about transitions. It was more about when we lose the ball, we get into shape, we defend properly, we track our men, and when we do get the ball, we move forward very quickly. Under Ange, it's going to be different. We're going to be in possession. We're going to be having the ball a lot more, and that's where Ndombele is going to be a lot more comfortable. I'm hoping, this is what I'm positing. We don't know for sure, but I'm positing that Ndombele, if we do have more possession, he would have to do hopefully less defending. I'm not saying less running, but less defending than he would have to do under Conte or Mourinho in those kind of systems. We would have more possession. We'd have more of the ball, and maybe in that kind of system, in a right structure that's being well put together, he could flourish. And if Ange can really get into his mentality, get him to do some hard work and some hard yards, we could potentially have I believe in Ndombele that he would be more of a game-changing midfielder in this system than any of our other players in that number 8 position because of his ability on the ball. Yes, there are definitely question marks with attitude, and hard work and all these kind of things. But if Ange can really... If Ange's one of his biggest strengths is his man management, he says that he really knows how to deal with modern day players and really knows how to deal with their mentality and finding what motivates people. And if he can do that with Ndombele, then I think the upsides massively outweigh the downsides, and I think he could even be perfect for that number 8 position, which is a bit more offensive, allows him to be creative. Yes, he's going to do. Everyone has to do hard work in football. You can't get away with not doing hard work. So obviously, Ndombele is going to have to do that. But if we can get that out of him, we could potentially have one of the best players in that position we could find.
Iggy, I see you're trying to come in there. What were you about to say?
No, listen, when Sim puts it like that's his only real saving grace, is that the style of football that Ange has to offer compared to what Conte and Mourinho previously. And I agree that in his time at Tottenham, perhaps the frustration from him was that we went like this way, then we went that way. We went, regardless of how the style of play, we changed 20 million different routes, and he probably got frustrated. Some players are adjustable, others aren't, and he I think falls with the latter. So you're right. When Sim puts it like that, it can. There's hope for him that this style of play might be more suitable for him. But for me personally, the root of it, I still think that he's the biggest question mark for me is putting himself out there for the team rather than for himself. Can he do that part? That's the question mark that I have over him. So far, he hasn't shown anything he can. But yeah, in the style of play, maybe there's a bit of hope. We'll find out.
Iggy, would you rather take the risk on seeing if you can get that little tiny bit of blood from the very large stone?
I would sell, man. If I was short, I would sell.
You'd sell for 20,
let's make
right?
it clear.
With 20...
Let's make it clear. I work on percentages of success rate, and that's what we need at Tottenham. So I look at it as overall. So if I have to start
20 plus 10, you go and get Alex Scott. Right? You go and get Alex Scott.
Alex Scott, WeAreTottenhamTV as well.
Is. Oh, I lost you. I'm not sure if I lost you or not.
No, we can hear you, Sean. We can hear you, Sean.
Sorry, yeah. You take the 20 million. If there's a buyer out there for 20 million, you go and sell him to 20. You sell him for 20, and you go and buy Alex Scott from Bristol for 20, and you pay another 10 in like some sort of extensive add-ons depending on performances. And there you've got a player that might not have the gift that Ndombele has, but has the drive, the hard work, the opportunity, blah blah blah. Plus, he's a Tottenham fan, and you figure out not just the immediate but the future as well. To me, that makes far more sense than hanging on to some dream world that Ndombele is going to turn around because
I'd go and spend it on someone that's going to give me a better return and succeed or success rate. Certainly, that's what I mean when I go on percentages. You have to pick on players that are going to give you a high percent, the least risk possible. And for me, with him, he in my eyes, he made his bed a long time ago. But for the sake of the call, you know, and listen to what Sim had to say on him and the situation of the style of play, I take that on board and then think, you know what, that is the only hope for him. But it's still a massive risk and one that, what, you know, if that doesn't pay off, where do we go with him? The value of the 20 million will go even less, wouldn't it? So if you say to me, give me $1 million, I'll sell.
Look, the fact of the matter is, I don't think this guy has the fundamentals to play and work hard in a team that we want him to do. And we need players that are going to come in and die for the badge, blood, sweat and tears, and work their asses off for Ange Postecoglou. And yeah, he might do that for the first couple of games, but he ain't going to keep it up for a whole season. The guy can barely complete 70 minutes on a football pitch. How are we supposed to put all our eggs in the Ndombele basket? It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous.
We're just putting some of our eggs in it.
But it's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to put any eggs. All our eggs should be on people that want to die on that football pitch for the manager. They want to put all their blood, sweat and tears for the badge. And he has never shown that in a Spurs shirt. He's never shown that in any shirt for any club that he's ever played for. So
Agreed.
I think the guy we need to get rid of this guy. We need to bring in an Alex Scott. We need to bring in a Rio Hatate, one of these players that are going to come in and really want to play for the badge, really want to play for the manager. The guy just clearly does not have the fundamentals in it. I know this Ndombele has a lot more talent than the guy I'm about to say, but it reminds me of someone like Adel Taarabt who had all the talent in the world, but didn't have the work ethic to marry them two together. And if you want to be an elite, really good football player in the Premier League, you need to marry those two together, and he has never shown that in his career. So get rid for me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone very quiet.
Sorry, Sim,
I agree. No, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you, buddy. 100%. I completely agree. If a £20 million bid is literally there on the table,
I would sell for 10, 5, whatever. Just get the wages off the book.
Yeah.
I think it's worth taking. For me, with the talent that he has, I think it's worth taking the risk to give him another shot. I would give him 6 months, see what he could do. If he really is committed to not working and not giving a shit, then yeah, fine, get rid. But
he'll get found out very quickly.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Potentially, he might do. But
I think he'll get found out before the 31st of August.
Ange won't tolerate for it. If he's still here by the time the window closes, I'm sure that's because Ange has said he's got something he can work with here.
Why are we giving someone another chance? That's had. It's like I don't know.
Because we've been a mess. It's not just him. The club have been a mess. And yes, it's not. We've had so many players who could have been good players, but have gone under the radar.
Napoli weren't a mess last year.
Yeah, and they apparently want to sign him again. Who knows? Like I don't know. He played 32 games. He only started 12 of them. But yes, they were brilliant. But how can you, when a team is winning 3-4-0 every game, it's going to be very hard to break into that team, isn't it? It's going to be very hard to earn a starting place, because why would they swap out a team? Why would they change a team that's winning by big margins every game? Why would they do that?
Okay,
so obviously they're going to have a set 11.
The examples we're talking about is if you've got a team that's struggling and he doesn't work out because we're a mess. Okay, well, let me give you the example of going to a team that's got it all figured out.
No. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I don't think he was that bad for Napoli when he played. Is what my point. I don't think he played badly. And actually, he started, I think, against AC Milan and had a pretty good game in the Champions League.
Didn't he give away a goal that game?
He didn't give away. He gave away the ball, and they ran the whole length of the pitch and scored. I wouldn't say he was actually playing really well before that moment.
Iggy, tell us.
He was playing really well. I watched the game. He was having a really good game. Just because
there's no wrong in your mind.
Leao's quick. Leao is quick.
Leao literally picked the ball
I'll
up on
give
the
him
edge
that.
of his own. Ndombele gave the ball away on the edge of the AC Milan box, and Leao literally ran the whole length of the pitch. I don't think you can blame Ndombele just for that. I think that's harsh.
Sim, it's a
And
very
it's for
weird
the sake
hill
of
to
a
die
joke.
on, mate. It's a very weird hill to
Well,
die on.
I'm not dying on the hill. I'm saying give him 6 months with the amount of
Do you know-
talent
do you know-
that he
do you know-
has. I think it's worth is not chucking that away and giving it another go. It's not dying on a hill. If it really isn't going to work, we
20
haven't,
million
we
pound
haven't
bid
lost so
comes in.
much. Okay,
20
so
million
we lose.
20 million pound bid
So
comes
we
in.
lose.
You
Okay,
don't
we can
wanna
lose.
take
We
it.
can lose 10 million on that, whatever. So maybe he'll go
Tim,
for
I
half
think-
that in January. But I think it's worth the risk. That a potential upside is we could have one of the potential perfect players for the number 8 position with talent that is not seen in the Premier League with very little
Sim,
midfielders. That's the
in the
upside.
grand-
The downside is we lose 10 million on the transfer fee that we might get now.
And
Sim, in the
wasting,
grand scheme of
wasting a
things,
spot in the squad.
Would you take
Okay,
it?
so he's going to be. Who do we have now in the squad?
Tim,
there's
if we
no
had an
player
isolated-
who could potentially be better than.
Yeah, but you're
Ndombele
wasting a
at all.
spot in the squad. You could get him out, get the wages out, and you can bring in someone that we know that is going to want to work hard for the team.
Yeah, but not who won't potentially be as good as him. So I think it's worth the 6-month risk. In my
We
opinion.
know for sure if we bring in another player, if we bring in an Alex Scott, a Tottenham fan through and through, if we bring in a WeAreTottenhamTV, who was one of the biggest workers under Ange Postecoglou last season at Celtic, you know 100% they will work a million times harder than a Tanguy Ndombele next
Yeah, but
season
they
for
don't have the
Tottenham.
talent of Ndombele. So
Yeah, but
we
he
can
need-
get
if
the-
Ange
we can get the
Postecoglou-
work rate out of Ndombele.
Yeah, but
then it's
that's
worth
the whole
risk.
point. You can't.
Well, maybe he can. He's a good man manager,
Come on.
Postecoglou. He's
It's a
supposed to
pipe
be a
dream.
player who
It's a
can
pipe
work-
dream. It's a pipe dream.
It might be, but it's worth the risk, in my opinion. With his ability, I think that's worth.
You see
taking
what
the risk
Ndombele
on.
does? You see what Ndombele does?
If
See what
we-
he's doing already?
If Conte was still here, or we still had a manager Mourinho, I'd agree with both of you. I'd rip up his contract. I wouldn't even want a transfer fee for him. But now we're changing the way that we want to play. We're moving to a possession-based system. We haven't had that for 4 years. Ever since we signed Ndombele whatever, forget Lo Celso.
You know
Ever
what's gonna
since we
happen,
signed
Sim? You know what's
Ndombele,
gonna happen?
We haven't had a system which might suit him as much as potentially this could.
It doesn't mean we're going to have that much possession just because we are moving to a possession-based system. There is a massive fallacy in my mind that people think because we're moving to a team that looks a little bit like Man City, that we're suddenly going to play a little bit like Man City. The level of players that we have are not the same level. We are going to try and do this transition where we can keep 70% possession. That, in my mind, is a ludicrous assumption.
Yeah,
we are
but do you know
going to
what?
be
Who's
so
going to help
often
you
in the
keep possession is players like Ndombele.
No,
Yeah, he'll
it's
also
not.
help-
Because when-
he'll help you lose
because when
possession
they
as well
lose
with his
possession,
work rate.
He'll help
they're
you
not the
keep
guys
possession.
that fight to get it back. He doesn't fight to get it back. As soon as the ball goes past him, which it will, in a Tottenham team this season, and especially in the first season of a 4-year project, when we are learning this system, when we're trying to figure it out, there is going to be so many times when Tottenham lose the ball in transition, and it's either going to go long.
That's going to
or it's
happen with
gonna go over
anyone.
the
That'll happen with
channels, or
Alex
it's gonna
Scott.
go
That'll happen with
straight past.
Arteta. That'll happen with anyone when they're first starting the system.
Yeah, no, but the second that we lose possession, Ndombele is going to turn, see that it's more than 2 yards past his foot, and go, "All right, that's not my job anymore." Whereas
We don't
other
know that.
players,
Yeah,
We do know
Romero's
that.
got this.
We know
Romero will pick it up. Don't worry.
Do you know what it is, guys? I just feel like there's areas of the pitch where we're gonna, you know, the defense has to be sorted out. We have the fullbacks. We don't know how we're gonna play. Are we gonna go? We're attacking minded fullbacks. You got, you know, Maddison coming in. Bentacle will eventually go. I just think that there are areas that you have to exploit. You have to explore with new players. And I just think if it was just like we had already a set side with settled players and you just had to have him as the only risk, then I'll probably be to say, do you know what? It's worth it. It's worth doing. I think with how we're going to be setting up, how the new manager is looking to play and wants to play, and also wants to need to get results at the same time. I just think there's, you know, the 2 centre backs. Then you've got the full backs. How are we going to go there? Then you've got Maddison to settle in. Who's going to be the number 6? And then you include Ndombele in all of that. I just think it's just one too many for me personally. But like I said, maybe I haven't let what happened with the whole Morecambe thing go for me and all the previous stuff. Perhaps
Don't let it go, Iggy. Don't let it go.
That's where I've gone wrong. And perhaps you got to think this Tottenham side have got to show signs. I'm not saying just on results, but they've got to show signs that we are looking to move into a different direction than what we previously come from. We had such a poor season last season, one of the worst ones I can remember today, and I want to now say, you know what, press the reset button, start again. But I want, and I'm fine with it being a season of transition. I absolutely am. I won't be putting no pressure on the manager, even after 10 games. I won't be anyway. But I have to see signs of a team moving in a different direction. And we need to help this team, the manager, everyone comes in to do that. And I just don't feel that with the tried and tested, with players that perhaps we know the talent is there, Sim. Undoubtedly, this talent is there. But I just can't take any more risks of things going wrong at Tottenham. And if I can help it, if I can't help, that's on them. If a new player hasn't worked out,
I think if you're going to take a risk, now's the time, right? Beginning of a project where we're not expecting big results. I think now's the perfect time to take a risk on someone like Ndombele, rather than when we're down the line on a project or anything like that.
Listen, to be fair, all right, look, Sim, I'm going to say this.
Have you had a bet, Sim, on
Ndombele
scoring 4 or 5 goals this season?
There's no money riding on this. It's just my belief.
It's 2 months. There's 2 months.
Don't believe him, Sean. Don't believe him.
We're in July now. We're in July now. If anything, the next 4 to 6 weeks changes, and he starts, we start seeing training, and in Wendy's, and you think, you know what, maybe there's something there. I may even begin to I'll look into reconsider it. But as of now, just don't think I'm ready for it, man. I'll be honest with you. I'd just rather get rid.
If Ange sees him in training and he's taken a good look at him and really decides I don't want anything to do with him, I'm also okay with that, and I think that's fine. That's probably justified with how he's been. If Ange takes a look at him and really thinks I can find what motivates this player, I can really get into his head and try and change mentality, and with the quality he has, I really believe that it's worth taking a punt. It's worth taking a risk.
You're changing the argument.
Not really.
Because let me explain. Because if I think we all have to get behind Ange Postecoglou, we all have to believe in him, right? So
you all believe if Ange gives him another chance, whatever happens, he's making a mistake. That's what you guys believe.
No.
Well, hang on, hold on.
If he sees something in him, then so be it.
We are. If Ange wants to give him a chance and see something that none of us see because we're not privy to the intricacies of the training, I will get behind Ange's decisions, just like I got behind, or I will get behind any of the transfers. However, you are now pivoting your argument from
no, I'm not.
What you want to what Ange wants. Do you want, forget Ange for a second, do you want Ndombele to stay? Yes or no? Not forget what Ange decides, because I'm also going to be behind Ange. So if Ange decides Ndombele wants to stay, then I'll get behind it. But that's not the argument here. The conversation is what us as Tottenham fans fancy. I don't fancy Ndombele. Do you?
I want to give Ndombele another 6 months. Yeah, okay. I would.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm going to hold you to, not what Ange does or says.
Look, if Ange gives Ndombele a chance and he feels like he can get something out of the player, I think we all have to back it. And I personally, of course I'll back it. Of course I'll back it. But right now, if you're asking me my opinion, it's a big fat no, 100%. 100%. Let's move on and let's go.
Before we move on to the next topic, do you want to tell people about the pinned comment?
Yeah, well, we've got some very, very exciting news for you guys, as me and Sim are opening a brand new channel for you guys focusing on European football. Maybe Iggy will give us a big insight into Serie A over on that channel at some point, but it is called On The Ball. We will start producing content on it next week, so please do go and hit that link in the top of the comment section and hit that subscribe button. It'll mean the world to us, and we always thought the We Are Tottenham Army will be strong. So big up to all of you that have already gone and done it, and we're very excited to bring you the new channel and to bring you some fresh content on there surrounding all things European football. We'll have actual gameplay highlights from the Bundesliga, from Serie A, and potentially La Liga as well. So big up to everyone that has gone on and clicked subscribe on that channel. But let's move on to the last topic of the panel today, and it's revolving Ollie Skip. And the question is, should we keep Ollie Skip? We've had many chats in the WhatsApp group about our need for a number 6. I mean, Sean has made his opinions clear on that one, but we'll get his opinions again here on the live stream. But we'll start off with you, Sean. Do you think we should keep Ollie Skip?
No, I don't. I don't have the faith in him. I think if he wasn't a Tottenham lad, I think if we spent 25, 30 million quid on him and he came in, I think we'd all be disappointed. Standing, I have sympathies for his injury that was innocuous, that turned out to be a bigger problem. I just think he is awful on the ball. I think he's better than most off the ball. I think he's a good off the ball defensive midfielder. But for the Postecoglou system, what you need from the 6 in the Callum McGregor role is a very specific set of criteria, and that is someone who has the ability to ping the ball left and right to any short, long, have a speed of thought which is incredibly quick, confidence with your ball at your feet, of which I don't think Skippy has any of those things. And then on top of that, you also need to have someone who can sit back and protect what can look like a back 2 if both centre backs are advanced. But in the Postecoglou system, naturally, it's usually one, not the other. So the 6 is often, sometimes in transition, one of the final 4. And do I think that Skippy's good enough with the ball in front of him? I don't. I think where Skippy's defensive capabilities are ahead of most others is when the ball has gone past him and he gets back. He's like someone who can clamor to get back and recover. I think he's very good in that regard. But for me, I don't think he's a bad player. I like him a lot. I just don't think that he sits well in the specificities of the 6. Is he an 8? Absolutely not. Is he a 10? Absolutely not. If you're going to put him as a 6, I just don't think he's good enough with the ball at his feet. Maybe he can learn to become better. Maybe we should loan him out rather than sell him, but this time loan him to a Luton or someone who's Nottingham Forest, whatever, someone that can use him in the Premier League. But as a backup to Bissouma, it terrifies me. And that is why I've been saying, the start of this, everyone's talking about our new midfield 3 of Bissouma, Bentancur, Maddison. Yeah, it looks great on paper. Personally, I don't even see Bissouma as being a perfect fit for the Postecoglou 6. Bentancur, we don't even know what version of him is going to come back. Coming from someone that's ruined his ligaments in his knees from rugby injuries, I don't think that you're necessarily ever the same player you were before the injury. And so, even at the start of the season, assuming that Højbjerg is on his way out, I don't think we have a proper 6. And I don't think that I think Sar's more of an 8. And I think that Skippy isn't good enough on the ball. So, sorry for a bit of a rant, but in a nutshell, I think Tottenham have a lot of work to do in that specific role of the 6. And I don't think Skip is the guy.
Iggy?
Listen, it's a tough one because he had a tough season last season. But then again, who didn't? Let's have it right. With the exception of Harry Kane, who really had a good season last season. So for me, to answer the question, I'd keep him another season. I think this one has to be the one where we really evaluate him properly in a function. It's be listed a different midfield. It's not 2 in the pivot. It's going to be a 3-man midfield with 1 holding and 2 alternatively going. I'll probably be intrigued to see him play like in the right centre mid, where he can defend as well as go forward in the attacks. Yeah, perhaps on the ball is not the greatest, but he does his timing, his runs going forward are not. Are not bad at all. He did really well that season at Norwich, albeit in the Championship. And he got a few goals for them as well, going forward. He got a real good drive on him. But I feel that Skip is a character that needs to have the manager's belief. I think he needs to have manager's belief a lot. Conte liked him, as is Mourinho before. I think he liked him as well. There is something that intriguing about this guy. I think he plays with his heart on his sleeve. Yeah, he made some blunders last season, but then again, who didn't? I don't feel we need to reevaluate him probably at the end of next season. I don't think he's the priority, but if you can show in the market you can bring in another player that's get better than him and you have to sacrifice him, then yeah, at that point I would. But right now, I don't think he's in the list of priorities to sell for me. I'll give him another opportunity. I would love to see him playing with in what I hope to see in Postecoglou's way of playing. I'd like to see how he gets on in a different position that he occupied last season. That's how I see it. Certainly, we know Zico is not about till November, and you're right, Sean. We don't know what version we're going to get off the guy. So I wouldn't completely change midfield. I do think it's that one area that I wouldn't go too crazy about, given that we're already working a lot in defence and the fullbacks are going to be very telling. So there's one area of the pitch I wouldn't go too crazy about, unless we can pick someone out of the bag and say, yeah, this guy's going to really change up in midfield and we have to sacrifice him along the way. Then only on that point I would get rid of Skip.
Sean, do you think he's too young to be talking about him like that and maybe throwing him away so quickly?
I'm not saying necessarily throw him away. I'm just saying I don't think he can play backup. Like at the moment, think about the starting 11 as you see it, right? As if the season was to start tomorrow, you've got Bissouma, Højbjerg, who doesn't fit any of the
shut up, Bugsy.
Sorry about Bugsy. Yeah,
Bugsy likes it, man. He likes it. He doesn't not agreeing with Jordan at
the moment. To me, I'm not saying throw him away. I think there's a player in there. I was a fan of Skip. I am a fan of Skip. I think he's a good player. I think he will become a good player. But I think you have to look at the horses for the courses, and I think that we are changing our system dramatically, and you have to take into account what is asked of certain roles under the Postecoglou system, and the guy who plays the 6 has to be brilliant on the ball. Everything starts through him. Everything starts once the defender breaks the line. They give it to the 6, and the 6 is the guy who pings it left and right. And then when the ball isn't at his feet or in Tottenham's feet, it's going to be coming back his way. He has to be the guy who can defend and stand up. And if the ball gets past, the player doesn't. Players that I look at that are the perfect fit are players like Manuel Ugarte, who's gone to PSG. Players like Sofiane Amrabat, who is probably going to go to Manchester United, and why Tottenham aren't going to bid if his number is 30 million is bonkers. Players like Zubamendi from Real Sociedad, brilliant player that could do the job. Players like Locatelli from Juventus, and Tottenham have got a relationship. I think he'd be a fantastic player. There are players out there. I'd even go as far as to say Calvin Phillips, I think, would be a really, really good player. If it wasn't for the fact that he's 5'9", because I do think that the person who plays in the 6 also has the threat of balls coming over the top and needs to be decent in the air. But there's players out there that Tottenham can go after that can really help in the 6, because I think that Bissouma is going to sit in there for the time being. But actually, whilst we don't know what's happening with Bentancur, you push him forward and then you get someone in who's a proper number 6. There's players out there, and for me, I just look at Skip and think, he's not good enough with the ball at his feet. Do any of you disagree? Do any of you think that he is a ball playing?
I wouldn't play him in a 6, Sean. I wouldn't. I'd give him a bit more license to go and join the attacking side of the game. That's my feeling, because I think he played a couple of games. I think the Chelsea one where he was given a little bit more freedom to go, and in the league one, like from edge of the box, like, and you think, there's more to. I honestly believe there's more to this player, and what I like him at the sense of it all is giving it all. He's giving you always. He never spares himself, even when he's playing badly or not great. He's giving his all, and that for me is a great base to have as a player. Because there are other sides to his game for sure that needs improving, and I think with the right guidance and definitely a manager that truly believes in him, we can have a player. I don't think he's going to be top of the top elite Raptor or anything like that. I'm not saying that, suggesting that for a second, but I do think there is a squad player there that can be part of a team at midfield where the main man requires a rest here and there. He can fill in those gaps. So listen, I'm not saying he's completely unstoppable.
I think he's not good enough on the ball, mate. If he's not good enough on the ball in a 6, he's not good enough in an 8.
He's not. But if you can go and get me Amrabat for 30 million, we have to sacrifice him, then yeah, I'll say, yeah, go and do it. Absolutely go and do it. But then again, those are the kind of players I'm saying, statement signings, where you think, you know what, your midfield changes from like this to like this. Yeah. 30 million for Amrabat. Go and get him. Go and get him. We need a player like that. This is the kind of defenders, Sobia, Amrabat. Those are the kind of players that will change your team massively. For 30 million, do it. These are the kind of things that I'm looking at the board to do. And the frustration of what Sim was saying earlier on in the show, where we always seem to we're going to the cheapest option rather than the best option. We shouldn't be. We can't go toe to toe with Man United as in get into an auction or get into a bidding war with people like that. That's why we need to act early and get them in. But
Iggy, for me, the reason why, right? Iggy, you go and get a Sofiane Amrabat. Not only does it solve the 6, it also solves the fullback wingback situation. Because you've got a guy then that can sit in front.
Yeah, they can go and he can sit in.
And Romero, you've got a guy then that the ball comes up this way or down on the floor, and Amrabat can go and smash it. You've got the confidence to say to Udogie, yeah, go and join the front 5, and don't worry about it so much. You've got the confidence to say to Pedro Porro, go and do what you want to do. Don't worry about it so much. Without Sofiane Amrabat, if you've got Bissouma sat in front of Romero and Tapsoba or Romero and Van der Ven, I think Tottenham are going to get turned over in a couple of scenarios next season. And that, to me, is an issue. It's an issue.
Come on, Sim.
I disagree with Sean quite heavily, to be honest. I think, first we'll touch on the topic that we have, what we're talking about is Ollie Skip.
Yeah.
I think he is a 6. I think that is his position. I think before his injury, one of his big strengths, I'm not saying he's like a Pirlo on the ball, but I do think his passing is better than what you're saying it is. I think one of his biggest strengths was his awareness, his ability to turn on the ball, his ability to keep possession. I think I remember very clearly one of the clips when he was first breaking into the team, when England were playing Holland under 21s. I think it was Frankie de Jong saying, "Oh my God, that Ollie Skip, I can't get near him. He's really annoying to play against because I just can't get close to him, and he keeps getting away from me." I'm not saying that Ollie Skip should be our starting number 6 next season. I think he is good enough to be a backup number 6. I think that he, in the games that he's required for, you got to remember as well, last season, yes, he didn't have the best end of the season. First of all, when he did break into the team, he was pretty good against the likes of AC Milan. He scored against Chelsea, West Ham. I remember a lot of games he was really good. And what I think for me, what happened was we were asking him to play too much football, essentially coming back from a very serious injury. He wasn't really expected to play as much football as he did last season. Essentially, he was asked to, because we had injuries to Bentancur, Bissouma got injured for 3 months, and all of a sudden Skip had to play pretty much the last 3 months of football uninterrupted. And I don't think he was ready for that. I think when he first broke into the team, he was pretty good, but I don't think he was ready to play the amount of football that he did. But when he was at his peak fitness, I think he was playing really well. And I disagree that. Yeah, mate, look, based on last season and how he ended last season, you could argue that he's not good enough on the ball. But if I'm basing it on what Skip was when he was first on his loan deal at Norwich and when he was first breaking to the team at Tottenham under Conte before that serious injury, he was really good in his ability to get away from players and keep possession. Yes, he's 22. He's got some work to do on the ball, on his passing range. He has got some work to do. But I think to be back up, at 22 years of age, I think he's good. He's got good awareness and discipline off the ball as well to play that position. I think he could do a good job of backup in number 6, in my opinion. I think it's worth keeping him around. We know that he's very highly thought of around the club as well. If we're basing it off his last 10 games or so of last season, you could very well make the argument, yeah, he's not good enough. But I don't want to judge him based on that. I want to judge him based on how he looked when he first broke into the Spurs team. And also last season, when he first came back from injury, he was looking really, really good. I think he played too much football. Not only was he overplayed, but he was also played for different managers, and everyone was all over the place. It wasn't just him. So I would give him the backup role as number 6. And for me, I think Bissouma.
You'd be happy right now, Sim, for the start of the season to come in with Udogie at left back, who's untested at a fullback situation. Porro at right back, Romero, and let's say Tapsoba for the sake of argument. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that we go big in the side centre back, and Skippy in the 6, Bissouma in the Bentancur role, Maddison in front. And you think we've got enough defensive?
Sean, rephrase the way you said Skippy there. Say it in a more positive light, please.
Wait, sorry. What's that again?
I'm joking.
No, I'd have Bissouma in the 6. I'd have Bissouma in the 6.
Bissouma in the 6, and who? So then who in the 8?
Højbjerg. or Ndombele.
No, he's
you're
saying
saying
Skip
that-
as a
Do
backup.
you-
He's saying Skip as a
Do you
backup.
not
I'm
feel
saying
that
Skip as a
Skip
backup.
could play in the 8? I know he's not. Is a good 6. I think he's a good 6.
I don't think he's good
great.
enough going forward, in my opinion. I would rather him in the 6, where he
But
only
at
contributes
Norwich,
to build
though,
up.
at Norwich,
The 6 in the
At
Postecoglou
Norwich, he
system
did
is the
do bits playing
creator.
there.
He is good. I think he's better on the ball than you give him credit for. That was one of his biggest strengths when he's bringing to the team. His awareness on the ball, his ability to to know when he's being pressed. He's very mature. He's got really good game understanding. Obviously, look, he's not the best on the ball.
I don't doubt his maturity and stuff. I'm just sitting there saying, when you put the ball at his feet,
Yeah,
what
he
have
can
you
turn and
seen
pass
for
it.
him to be able
Yeah.
to ping the ball 40 yards to the left into Sonny's
He can
feet.
do that.
40
He can do that.
No,
He's got a good passing range. He does. He can't. He's not a Perlo, as I said. He's not an unbelievable passer. But I
like
think
a
as a
Pirlo.
backup role, I think he
He's a
can do
whirler.
it. I think he can do it. I think he can
It's
do
not
it.
a backup role. It's not a backup role. When the season
Why?
starts,
Basuma will play the 6.
But if Basuma himself isn't good enough and the specificities of the 6, the 6 is not a traditional 6. The traditional 6 is someone that just sits there
And
and
you'll have to
protects.
work with what he's got. I don't think
Angie's
he can
6
do
is
that.
different. Angie's 6 is the quarterback. You need someone who has got the absolute confidence to be able to just control the ball, like how good Bentancur is on the ball. Bentancur would play the 6. If you had confidence in Bentancur's ability to shepherd and marshal the back 4 when we don't have the ball or in transition, then the best fit for the 6 is Bentancur. It certainly isn't Skip. It's no chance, in my opinion.
Yeah,
listen,
Skip as
I wouldn't say
backup,
right,
I'm saying.
It's never going to be
I
Skip.
think Skip is good enough to be back up in the number 6, in my opinion. And I don't see how, in terms of profile of players, why Amrabat is so much better than Basuma and what he can do. I think they're both profile fairly similarly. And yes, I think Basuma's played in the base of a midfield 3 before, and I think Ange can train him up. I think he's got the qualities to play that role. I think he's got really good press resistance. I think he's got a good passing range. I think the reality is, in terms of our passing ability in midfield, apart from now Maddison, we don't have that elite passing ability right now in our midfield. We've got good passes, but not amazing passes. And maybe that's what you're calling for. And I do think, by and large, that's what we do need. But I do think we can get by for now with what we have and make adjustments. And then maybe next year, I think we've got a lot to do. I'd rather spend the money on top centre-backs and make do with Basuma and Skip than go cheaper on a centre back and go bigger on a number 6 right now. I think we have players who, in my opinion, we're in with Basuma, Skip and Sarr. We have, in my opinion, we have 3 players there who all 3 might not be perfect for that role, but I think in the short term can all be trained to play it. In my opinion, they all have the quality to play at an okay level. That will be good enough to get us by for this season, and then next season we can think about getting a really elite passer. And I don't think we're getting that this window. I think right now it's more about getting elite centre backs who can really cover a lot of ground and come from wide areas, and obviously we got the winger. I think those are more important things right now than getting a number 6. I agree. We probably don't have perfect number 6s, but I think in the short term, in Basuma, Skip, and Sarr, we have enough just to get by.
Do you not think Sarr can play the 6?
Nope.
Why not?
Well, I haven't seen it. I'm not sorry. I shouldn't have said no. I'll say don't know. I don't think I've seen enough of him. I don't think anyone has to have the confidence. I think Tottenham have only really seen him play 90 minutes of excellent football that set a kind of benchmark where everyone thinks now that this guy's got the nuts or the stones to do it. And that was Milan away. I thought he was excellent, really, really good in that position. But, explain to me why he never got the minutes after that night.
I was baffled, to be honest, because
We're all baffled by
we
that.
were baffled because Sim said before, and he was absolutely right. Skip was playing week in, week out after that, never got a rest.
I agree.
When we had Sarr just sitting there, why didn't he play more? There was no reason for it whatsoever. But in terms of the argument that you guys were having before, I kind of do lean more towards what Sim is saying. I think that there are more pressing issues in the squad, and I think the centre-back situation definitely needs to be looked at and to a higher quality.
I actually agree with Sim on that point as well. I'm not sitting here saying that we scrimp on the centre-backs to go and get Amrabat. I'm not suggesting that. I 100% agree. You've got to get the centre-backs in and go big on there, and we'll have to deal with the 6. We've got so much to change and things take time. Sorry to interrupt, Ben, but yeah, I agree with Sim on that point. I just think that Skippy isn't good enough in the long.
But I don't believe that he's as bad on the ball as you're saying, and I don't think he's as good as on the ball as maybe as Sim's saying, or maybe he's not even saying that. But I do feel that potentially I have a feeling that he could be a bit too limited technically to play in an Ange system as the number 6. But I'm willing to give him the shot if Ange wants to do that. And also, I think probably the best course of action might be to loan him out for a year to play consistent minutes in the Premier League. I think that's probably the best course of action. But if we're going to go hard on the centre-backs, we're not going to go hard on the number 6. And I believe to replace an Ollie Skip and to get someone in that number 6, we probably do need to go hard in that position. So I do kind of see it a bit as being a bit unrealistic, this transfer window.
I just think we're going to get rid of Højbjerg, which looks like he's got a bit more market, and then we absolutely have to keep Skip for at least another season, in my opinion, just to have as a squad player. He's not, for me, like I said earlier, it's not a priority for me to sell immediately. I think we should review that, look at it in a different viewpoint, leave it to another season, I think, see how he does. For the reasons that also seems, overworked, overplayed. And we need to review that. I don't think he's done bad enough that we have to get rid of him straight away. I just think the priority is to go elsewhere. I think midfield, we've got the numbers. We've got Bentancur coming back. Maddison is going to give us a bit more creativity that we've been badly missed. And I think that the balance there right now, it's not amazing, but it's not bad either. I just like us to prioritise other areas. And then slowly we look at the midfielder further down the line.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to chime in on this one?
I think we've covered all areas.
Covered all areas covered. So do you want to finish off just going through the super chats?
Yeah, we got some super chats throughout the show. Appreciate all the live comments as well. Appreciate all the interactions during the show, all the likes. Appreciate if you would scroll down and like the stream as well. Would appreciate that. It does help support the channel. Tom Witten said, good vibes from California. Spurs need to not waste time on second chance players and spend on proven winners. Big up to all of you and Grandpa. I'm sick of winners and the talk of winners and stuff. I don't think that's where we're at the moment, to be honest. This whole reset is like going back to our roots, and that's definitely not winning. But I think definitely we need a reset. I don't understand what he's saying. He does want to give players second chances, but I think we have to spend on proven winners. I don't think that's where we're at the moment, unfortunately.
There's been a bit of breaking news on Guardian Sport. Apparently, we've offered a massive contract to Harry Kane.
Yeah.
In excess of 200 grand a week, but we all knew that. But he has no immediate intentions to sign it, so not really breaking news, just...
Yeah, I'm assuming
everything that we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's been a contract on the
nightclub
table.
in Ibiza until Monday, gag.
There's no chance Kane signs that this summer, in my opinion. Ryan Isaacs, big up to him, says 14 months as a member. Big up to Sean, Iggy, Ben and Sim. Bobby K says big up Ben, Sim, Shawnee, Iggy and all in the chat.
Big up.
CHS Beat says Guehi is average, Tosin is way better. Stats prove it. Definitely on Sean, on thinking aligning with Sean there. He also says stop overhyping Guehi. Tosin is better. So he's very much of the thinking we should spend less money and get Tosin. Kaylee Davis says, does Ange really think he can turn Tanguy around? Well, we won't know that, will we? We won't know it until he's given a chance.
You've been making the case all afternoon that where he can. Otherwise, there's no
I said
need.
Maybe he can. I'll bank on the fact that he can. Yeah. We don't know. No one really knows. We won't know until he's on the training ground.
Come on.
Look, all I can see is I'm watching training. He's flying into tackles. He's doing all. I think he can.
Get ready to get disappointed once again, people.
Tim's getting the mud bath on. He's just lowering up.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready for Tanguy to be absolutely balling. Michael Hellman says, it's vital we get the centre-back business done before the tour. Our club loves a loan with an obligation to buy. We should be able to get 3 quality centre-backs and balance the books. Come on, you Spurs, and Ange we trust. Levy out. That's also true. Why can't we get a Van de Ven and then loan to buy Tabsoba for whatever money they
Van de Ven,
want?
Tabsoba, Tosin. Make it happen.
Do it.
100%.
Do that. That's a 9 out of 10 window, Ben.
Maybe even what would make it a 10? The 6?
Yeah.
Not bad. Aled Rayner says, I think you'd cause more issues within the squad not giving Kane the captaincy. Iggy, what do you reckon about that? They're saying if
sign the contract,
if
he gets the
isn't given
captaincy. It's as simple as that.
That'll cause more problems in giving it to him.
Listen, I was all I was doing is looking at all potential scenarios. Listen, Ben just said it right. You sign a contract, you get a captaincy as well. So I think a captain, it should be like anything. It should be the last one to leave the ship, really.
If he let's say he stays in this next season and we don't give him the captaincy, isn't that just us giving out the signal that we all resigned to him leaving?
Ben, Sim, I'll be honest with you. Me personally, if a player's not ready to commit, I'd look to deal now. Even with Kane. That's me.
I'm saying in this hypothetical, we don't do a deal with Bayern. If he stays for next season, and we don't give him the captaincy, isn't that a signal to everyone? We're sending a message out saying this guy ain't staying.
The signal's already there with him not signing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
By doing it the other way, I think it's the same message anyway. You're giving the captain to someone who's not committed beyond next season, beyond the next season. So, listen, there is a fallback whichever way you go with it. There's no good outcome in this particular situation. You give it to him and he's not committed. You take it off him, then he's like, well, he's gone anyway. But so there's no win-win situation there. You're going to lose somewhere. You just got to look at it and say. For me personally,
you can't give the captain's armband.
Can't, man. I struggle, man. You guys have played football. You've been in football teams before. Sean, you played rugby. You know what it's like. If your captain's not, he's the last one. He is the one you turn to and you're like, how can I look at you and listen to what you say? Even more so if we're going through a little bad run, giving me a rollicking and me, I can't fathom it. I can't, guys. I
agree with Iggy 1,000,000%. If Harry Kane stays plays this season, but has not signed the new contract before the season starts, and you'll know that there's a consequence there. That's the reality because there's been an offered conversation, and he said, "Nah, not interested." If that is the way that the cookie crumbles, you give him the captain's armband, sends an incredibly bad message. I can 100% agree with Iggy. I agree. You need your captain to be 1,000,000% behind the cause. The guy that you're gonna go into battle for, and that that he will go to fight for you in a battle. And I don't think that Harry Kane. You can't make that argument in a world where we start this season with him not having had a new contract and him still being at Tottenham. I agree with you,
guys. Honestly, I don't want to be in a situation where we leave it all the way to the end of the August, and then we deal with Bayern Munich, and then we haven't given us enough time. Then everyone knows you need a striker, and they're going to double the price. And I think we need to act on it now. The next couple of days, 3 days, whenever, when I have a chat with Anja Postecoglou and Levy and Kane all sit together, I think the outcome of that is either he stays and stays for another season, and knowing fully well that he's going to leave, or for me personally, I'd look to deal now, so it gives us enough time to make adjustments.
Yeah,
I disagree. I wouldn't call.
It's been the case all afternoon, by the way. Yeah?
Sim's woken up and chosen violence today.
I disagree. I think I can make the argument that I wouldn't call in. Look, he's our best ever goal scorer. He's a club legend. He's been with us for a very long time.
I agree.
I think that you could give him the captaincy without calling into question his ability or his wanting to fight for the badge, even though he might be leaving in a year. It doesn't mean that just because of that you have to call into question his willingness to his commitment to the badge while he's still here as our best ever player. And I think the players would still respect him even if there is a possibility of him leaving in a year's time. I think as well, by giving the captain's armband, we're sending the message that we believe we can convince him to stay. And if that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. But I wouldn't want to have him stay and then not give him the captain's armband captain's armband as England captain and our best ever player, and that pretty much sends a message that we don't believe we can convince Kane to stay beyond this season. We're pretty much sending that message out to everyone, in my opinion, by doing
Takes
that.
two to tango, Sim.
Yes, but we have to. Yes, but Kane, I understand that. But at the end of the day, Kane might run down his contract, then sign. That's a possibility. We saw that with Mbappe. He completely ran down his contract, and then just before
And you think
it
if
went
that's
off and he
the scenario,
signed.
the difference between him running down and then signing anyway is because he wasn't given the captain's armband. I'm pretty certain that
I'm
anyone
not saying
can
it's
make the
because of that.
argument-
I'm just saying
Well,
it's
then it
just
doesn't
because
matter,
he
does it?
hasn't signed doesn't mean he won't sign. I think a
doesn't
year's a
matter
long
then.
time in football.
No, I think that the difference.
And I think Kane's well within his right. I think everyone understands Kane's situation right now. I think Kane's a very unique player to a lot of other players.
I'm not annoyed with him.
I think
I'm not annoyed with
Kane's
Kane.
a very unique.
I'm not annoyed with
and I
him.
think he would still command the respect of the dressing room as captain, even with the year left on his contract.
I'm not annoyed
Aren't you
with
just
Kane's
delaying the
situation.
problem a year?
Yeah, listen, I'm not annoyed with the situation. We know exactly what's going on with Kane, and part of us understand totally why he's doing what he's doing. I completely listen. It's the club's fault that we're in a situation where we are with Kane. There's no two ways about it. We can all agree with this. We can all agree that we should never be in this situation. Now that we are, though, we're presented with a problem that has to be addressed. And I just think that given that we have so many things to do this season, so many things that are, we want to start a rebuild, if you like, and it's going to be a season of transition. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed one way or the other. Listen, I don't doubt Kane's professionalism. I think he'll still carry the job. Ultimately, he's a goal scorer. If he stays another season, and one thing he has to guarantee is goal scoring, which he will do. But for me, this is I said it earlier on. It's a big call, whichever way you go with it. I'm not saying giving him the captain's armband is the wrong solution. I just think for me personally, there's certain things I see in a captain that for him, given the situation, is not ideal. I don't know. I just
Would the
see
same
that
situation happen? Would the same situation happen at Manchester City or at Manchester United? If the best player in the squad
Wasn't Gundogan captain last season?
Yeah, I think it did happen at Man City this year with
captain
Gundogan.
last season, and he had a year left on his contract, and he ran it down.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, then I'll get back in my box.
Where's that mud, Sean? Get in that mud bath, mate.
Sean, you had to pick the one club. The one club.
What you're saying. Brilliant.
No, but actually, I did agree with you guys, but I think Sim has actually swayed me over on this one, to be honest, because I think what he's saying in Kane is a very unique case at this football club as well, and it's absolutely spot on. And when you're looking at captains along the pitch and captains that are going to demand respect, year or no, or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years left, Kane is that guy. He is that guy, and he's earned it over the many years he's been here.
Listen, I'm happy to go with it. I'm just saying potential scenarios that could unfold during the season. But look, for me, I wouldn't go mad. It's like, oh, why is Kane captain? Like, if that's the best option, then we go with that. No problem with it at all.
All right, carry on the super chat. Rajesh Sharma says he was weary walking from the car park to training. LOL. I think it's all about Ndombele.
Rumour has it he's still walking.
He's still there. He hasn't made it home yet.
That's all I heard.
Hennessy says, evening all, great panel. If Kane was sold, what do you think we would do? Spend it, save it. Also, thanks for all the good content. Come on, you Spurs.
I think we'd invest it into anher hotel or an Olympic swimming pool or something.
We'll start a multi-sport franchise. That's what we'll do with the Kane.
Exactly. We'll start making Olympic champions. That's what we'll do.
I like to think we'll spend at least a portion of it on a new striker.
I'd like us to think we're going to get someone. I don't know if Osimhen's or Vlahovic or something like that. We'd need to replace the goals that we'd lose. I'm saying we're going to replace 30 of them, but we need someone that can get in the 20 mark, 20-25.
Perfect. I think that guy. I think Vlahovic has been ruined by being asked to play the Allegri system at Juve. You might.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Like, what has happened to him? Because even for Serbia, like, he wasn't starting at the World Cup.
The style of play doesn't suit him. He's too far away from the goal, and he's asked to play back to goal, which is not his forte. There's so many things, and the manager who refuses to leave his offers from Saudi Arabia, he doesn't want to leave Italy, and and players like there's unrest there, especially with players like the Vlahovic, and even Chiesa is not happy with the situation, and there's talks about him potentially leaving. Although Juventus fans will go crazy, and everyone don't want to lose an ass. But they're probably more willing to part ways with Vlahovic. But Chiesa, there's unrest there with a few of the players, particularly the forward line. They've been told to cover, play further back down the pitch and they see the goal with binoculars on. So they're not happy. They're not happy there, and I think a good offer. I think Juve would part with Vlahovic. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
What about like a Jonathan David or a Benjamin Sesko or Højlund?
Jonathan David is, in my opinion, the most overrated. He's such an people wax lyric about this guy. He got 24 goals last year for Lille, 10 of them from penalties. The other 14 that he scored had the average XG of 0.85. I'm not a stat merchant, but he's a Tommy tapping specialist. He gets the ball, he receives the ball, he puts his head down and he runs. He's a Steven Bergwijn type of player. He's a Richarlison type of player. He's got a very heavy first touch, and then he gets himself out of trouble by dragging the ball and doing very tricky stuff with his feet. But as a number 9, doesn't fit at all. Does very well in the French league. If Tottenham were to go and spend 70, 80 million, which is probably what he would go for because of the fact that he scored 25 goals in all comps last year. By the way, did anyone see him in the World Cup? He was
he was terrible. He was terrible.
He was awful in the World Cup. And like I say, just go and watch his highlights in the French league. He is
players out
so overrated.
Inter Milan just signed Marcus Thuram on a free transfer. That means that they're not going to bring Lukaku. What's going to happen with Lukaku? So there are situations. I don't know if Poch is going to use him at Chelsea. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is there. But there are players out there. But it's like, this is what I'm saying. But decisions need to be made earlier, and you've got to beat the competition, because we can't go compete with other teams, and that's the part of the footballing side of it and the club side of it. I wish we did a little bit quicker, where we identify just before everyone else does and bring him in. And like Thuram was a scoop, man. Like I don't know if that guy is going to do well or would do in England, but for a free transfer, that's a scoop, man. I can't believe more teams didn't go for him.
All right, more super chats. Tony Young says, "Big up, boys! Come on, you Spurs."
Yeah, Bob.
Brandon Troller says, "Should we not be looking to sign a left-footed or very two-footed centre mid?" I think he means centre back. He says, especially if we have Tapsoba at left centre back, that would be massive for balance. Oh no, he is for my centre mid. Do we need a left-footed centre mid? Because we don't have any left-footed centre mids, do we?
Brighton Hill, if you bring him in.
He's not a centre mid.
He can't play in centre mid, can he?
He could be. You could bring Brian Hill in the cross. Maybe not centre mid, but you bring him in, do what Harry Redknapp did for Luka Modric. I think that's the best way to
I'd say more Kulusevski than Hill in that role, no? Or maybe you reckon Hill could be better suited?
I don't really see the issue. Most players nowadays are, especially in that part of the field, are both footed, or certainly can use their left foot, even if it is their weak foot. I see too much of an urgency to go and get a left-footed player. In regards to Brian Hill, man, I just don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. He doesn't have the physical stature. I think his body shape is changing any way or form. I don't think it will either. So I think it's just I don't think the Premier League for him. So we should have about that. We probably should look to cash in and move on.
Don't we already have a left-footed centre mid in the squad in Giovanni Lo Celso?
Bring him home.
You have to go and think that. You have to go and think about that. And do you know what? With Lo Celso, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's such a weird one, because there's part of me that wants to give this guy another run, and there's another side I just think just cash in and get rid. Because every time he goes to play to Argentina, never comes back in time, or he comes back broken. So we can't. And also, you need to look at the AFCON in January as well. We're going to lose Bissouma and players. So we need to think carefully how
AFCON.
we move.
The AFCON is actually at a weird time this year when, I mean, we don't have that many Premier League games in January. I think it's only 2. So it's actually not too bad.
Not too bad, but okay, that's not, when you say it like that, it's not too bad at all. 2 games in Jan, we can deal with that.
Ravi Sridhar says, hopefully Kane signs the contract. Come on, you Spurs. Yeah. Howie EIS, just with a super chat, no message. Thank you, Howie. Carl Patrick Vineyard says, big up Benji and Simeone. Hope you are good. Every single day is leaving out day, as Brian Daigle says. He doesn't hope you guys are good, by the way. I think he's hoping we are good.
Big up.
Big up to KPV. And Azad Hamid says, big up Sim. We all have the last laugh in the Tanguy appreciation group. Why not Ndombele as our captain? Responsibility changes people. Give him the armband.
That is one of the worst. That is one of the worst takes I've ever seen.
The armband.
That's how you repay him for that walk off against Morecambe. Give him the armband.
Yeah.
And also bring back Hassam Ghali as our vice captain. That's
exactly.
All right, that's it.
All right, well, that brings an end to our panel today. Big up to Sean and Iggy for coming and join us today. Sean, tell us about your great channel and what's going on there this week.
Yeah, nothing really different. I generally lean on my dog for subscribers, and I occasionally talk a little bit of nonsense, a little bit of logic about things that happen with Tottenham. I take my dog out for a walk every day and show off the countryside around me. I am a user and abuser of factors outside of my opinion to get people to come to my channel. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. That's Spurs Talk Show, # all one word. And then occasionally I do live streams and other things as well. But yeah, appreciate you guys for having me on. Good to be back with you, Iggy. Haven't streamed with you for a long time, mate.
Long while.
Yeah, it's been an enjoyable conversation. Sim, you chose violence today, and
look, you just happened to have opinions I disagreed with, and I just made them clear and I argued them. I think I argued them well.
You did well.
And Sean, I've put your channel. Everyone, I've put Sean's channel in the chat as well. So go over and give him a subscribe. His channel is popping off, so you don't want to miss it.
Exactly, one of the fastest growing Tottenham channels in the community at the moment. So big up to Sean Butler. Tottenham away, Iggy, tell us what's going on in Tottenham away this week.
Yeah, Tottenham away. We do the morning show. I do the morning shows there, guys, from Hotspur Way. I've gone back to Hotspur Way because for a long time last season I stopped going for obvious reasons because I just couldn't take it over. But I've started going back there this season, doing the morning show there, live streams on a Monday. And we'll be doing, as the season starts, we'll be doing as well other live streams there. We've got a second channel at Wolf, which also concentrates on the European Serie A, La Liga, and just the top leagues in world football. So there's going to be content out every day, pretty much, as soon as the season starts. So definitely, guys, give it a watch at Tottenham away and World Football Arena with the season to go. I look forward to seeing many of you guys in the chat. So yeah, hit us, like, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the comments.
Big up, Iggy. Everyone go and subscribe to Tottenham Away, another great channel within the community. And we'll give ourselves another plug as well. Why not? And go and subscribe to On The Ball. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. The channels of Iggy and Sean are also in the live chat as we speak. So go and give subscribes to all 3 channels. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on.